Yo, we are live. What is good, everybody? This is the Radar, and today we're going to have some fun. Me and Travis is going to debate who is, if Hakeem is actually a top 10 NBA player of all time. But first, we could touch on a few things before we get there, so we'll make sure everyone is watching. Travis, how do you feel about the free agent so far in the trades that's been happening?
Oh man, um, honestly, I haven't completely kept up on it, like as I've been moving and whatnot. But I saw today that Porzingis went to the Hawks. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's, I mean, I think a lot of movements happening, but I think everyone's just waiting for like the LeBron shoe to drop here. Yeah, we know it, Johnny. We've been talking about it. Yeah.
So do you think that LeBron might get traded? What did you think?
I mean, it's really tough to say. I mean, I want to think he'll stay and like see what him and Luca can do because I think DeAndre Ayton's a great pickup for him. I mean, I don't know how effective he'll be offensively, but I mean, he's an upgrade over what they had, and they didn't have to give away the farm for him or anything, right? Like, so
Yeah.
I mean, he might go. I mean, it really depends, man. I mean, is he going to ditch his son? I think he might go to like we're all thinking like the Warriors, or something, but I think he'll stay. To be honest, how about you?
I mean, there's not too many places he could go. They have to trade a max contract for a max contract, and Golden State they could swap him for Jimmy Butler. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I think that may be something that could happen, but it really depends if LeBron wants that because with aiding, he might want to try it out and see how it goes. I believe he
yeah,
might want to try that out to see how it goes at the moment because I actually think that he may help. He may help LeBron, get that lob threat that he wants, especially with Luca. So I think if there's some place that he could go, I think it may be Golden State because you could just swap him with Jimmy, and the team really stays intact.
yeah, yeah. And then, I mean, Jimmy's a little younger and very productive still. I think Jimmy would be a great fit there because he
Yeah,
wouldn't, not to
yeah, I
say,
believe. Yeah, I believe he'll definitely be a good fit with Luca.
yeah, be great. And they have a lot of interesting lineups they could run now, especially like if they have Aiton there. But I don't know. It's gonna be tough. I think everyone's also waiting to see like if Giannis or Jokic make a move.
Jokic,
Uh,
what you mean, like Denver make a
yeah,
move or I
yeah.
don't. I mean, what move can they make?
I mean, well, actually, I'm sorry. The Denver actually signed. Who was it? They signed. They got a great free agent to help out because they got rid of what's his name's contract and they traded him right.
Yeah, Porter.
Porter Jr.
Hmm.
because he had a bloated contract. He wasn't producing. I forget exactly who they got in there, but it should be a great two-way presence or overall on the team. But I think that I think I just have a feeling Giannis moves somehow.
Okay. All right, Johnny changed it. Thanks, man, because I couldn't change it from my phone. But but how do you feel about Dame getting cut?
I mean, I'm not surprised because they were gonna lose him. He wouldn't. He would definitely not be available this coming year anyway, right? Like
Yeah, that's true.
rehabbing. He's what, like 36, 37 anyway, something like that.
Yeah, he's like 34. He's turning 35, I think they said. So
Is that I thought he was older than that, but like I don't want to say he's washed, but he would definitely not be the same player after that. And like, I mean, they probably have the inside track on like what Giannis is probably trying to do, and if they think he's gonna move, they'll probably just blow it all up. That starts
yeah,
with
I don't know what's going to happen with the Bucks because uh I know they got Turner, but Turner is not going to make a big change for him. I don't think.
you know,
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going to go on with that.
Yeah, it's hard to say because I mean I think Turner needs to be better offensively, especially than he was during these playoffs. But I don't know. There's still a lot to happen. I mean, they need to as soon as we see some of these big guys settle and like sign these contracts or whatever, then it'll be a little bit
I
easier.
mean, isn't everything almost done? Like, who else are they waiting on? I think there wasn't really any big free agents that was going to be signed anyway, and
Yeah,
unless there's a trade.
yeah. I mean, I have to look at some of their deals. I really don't know who's. I mean, I haven't seen anything that like really shook up the league yet or anything like that. I mean, you see a few pieces moving out here and there, but nothing really that's gonna, I don't think, change the who I would predict comes out of the East and West next year. Let me just say that. The Thunder have basically their whole team intact. Really, they're not gonna. They're still the favorites again to come out.
Mm-hmm.
Who's gonna stop that? I mean, if the Nuggets somehow get a few more pieces for the bench, but
Yeah.
next year, I don't think it's gonna be the Pacers, right? Because Halliburton's not gonna be there, at least for that
Yeah.
year or half the year or whatever. But
Yes, there's a lot of changes happening.
yeah, and the East is gonna be weird next. I mean, obviously, I think the Cavs will be back. I think Chicago will be better. I mean, but see what the Celtics do. I don't think the Celtics will be relevant. The Knicks will be back, but it'll be interesting. Yeah, give me a
Oh,
quick
okay.
second
Yeah.
here.
Okay.
Okay, John's gonna be joining us. I haven't heard from him.
No, I
See.
haven't heard from John yet either.
Okay. Yep. No, I'm with you there, Adrian. I mean, they won't be. I mean, they lost. They lost Miles Turner, right? And like Halliburton's like, obviously they're a deep team, but we'll see how they can compete. Um, so I don't think it'll be rebuilding or anything, but they'll still be good. But it's gonna be tough for them to replicate that success from last year. I still think it's probably gonna be. I mean, Knicks will still be good. I still think it'll also be the cat or the Cavaliers will still be back because they're no reason to think they'll fall off. I don't think they'll win 60 plus games again, but we'll see. But this today, guys, is well, and this might be one of the times we heavily rely on the chat for your input as to how this goes as far as the debate here, and because I mean, and John might show up a little bit later, but we'll see. And so you guys will have a poll there. Well, you guys can obviously chop it out in chat. We want your opinion. Obviously, the title here today is Hakeem a top 10 player? Obviously, everyone has their own criteria. Everyone has their own consensus and their list for whatever reason. Whatever you use to factor that in, whatever you use. Like I said, numbers, accolades, failures, or whatnot. Adrian Knight, what is my opinion on hiring Mike Brown? I mean, I don't mind. I think Mike Brown kind of got a bum rap in Cleveland. I mean, I don't think he's a bad coach. I think that. I mean, I don't think. I mean, I really don't think he'll affect the team. He's inheriting a great team who made a great run. I mean, he's a defensive-minded coach, right? And so, we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's with me at these points. It's always just wait and see. I hate saying this is going to affect so and so because the league is just so wide open these days. Like there's a lot of parity, there's a lot of player movement, but I think he goes well with that organization. He'll command respect to a degree. He's a veteran presence. We'll see though. But Twin Man, we might have you up here, also obviously to be a judge. But anyway, Brandon says that he doesn't think Hakeem's a top, and we're both gonna make the case. Obviously, I'm for, he's against, and how it's gonna work is we discussed it. We'll both have 5 minutes to make our case, overall case, as to why he's a top 10 player and why he isn't. Brandon's obviously gonna go the route that he isn't. I'm gonna go that he is, and then after that, he's going to have basically name players that are in the top 10 in his opinion, his top 10 that Hakeem can't touch for whatever reason or another, and then I'll have 3 minutes or whatever else there to kind of debunk as to why I think that he is a top 10 player above those guys. And then at the end, we'll probably just hash it out, talk a few, summarize it up, and then we'll kick it over to you guys to see what's going on.
Are you ready?
But B. Lee, would you like to start off as to why you do not think, or me?
Yeah, okay. I can start off.
Go right ahead, sir.
It's pretty simple. Like you said, I'm here to debate with Tperfect why Hakeem is not a top 10 player, even though you have him as a top 5 player. So it's pretty easy to explain. Hakeem really has no business in the top 10 with his career. Many, believe just because he's a 2-time champ, 2-time Finals MVP, and a regular season MVP, that basically boosts him up to actually be in the top 10 because there's not a lot of players with that resume, just that alone. There's at least like 12 players. But, just thinking about it, I believe it's like 12 players. So, but if we add Dr. J with his ABA and like NBA combined, that counts. So, we have players who did more than that Hakeem accomplished, like LeBron. We have Jordan. We have Kareem. Of course, Wilt and Russell. Magic. We even have Steph, who has led more teams to titles, or at least 2 of them, while being a regular season MVP or multiple time MVP, which Hakeem did not do. And then if we just want to keep it straight what Hakeem did, we got other players like Durant, Willis, Reed, and Kobe. They all accomplished, the 2 titles, the 2 Finals MVP, and the regular season MVP. So, you see how we have at least 10 players who did more than that. So one of the reasons why I don't think he is because of his playoff resume. He only has 76 wins, and all the players in the top 10 that we can list have more than 76. 76 is a pretty low standard for a player. He only had those 2 playoff runs when, Jordan quit. So without Jordan, he most likely wanted to be a top 20 player. So he benefited from that with just those 2 years that we want to put Hakeem in the top 10. Most people have those titles as a asterisk anyway. So but then again, we're going to debate all these players. But, I'm not going to waste my time comparing him to LeBron, Jordan, and Kareem because their resume stacks up so superior than Hakeem Olajuwon that, it's not really debatable at that point. So we're going to stick to players that's under, even though I do think there's a lot of players who his resume do not stack up against. But I would leave that to Travis to try to debate. So I'm going to end this right here and let him explain why he's a top 10 before I go into my list.
All right, guys. So you heard him there. A lot of explanation as to why he doesn't. A lot of it, his points were on, lack of playoff success. He thought other players did more. Didn't really go into that a whole lot there, but he mentioned Magic Johnson. So we're probably just talking about either the ring count or MVP. It's not really anything of a total lot of substance. Okay. So, but let me kind of get as to why I think he is. And with Hakeem's case, a lot of the best criteria, my criteria, has to do with measurable impact. Players, obviously combined with their statistical excellence and their accolades and achievements. So, and Hakeem, make no doubt about it. Okay, basically checks all the boxes here. Okay, when it's those things I just mentioned. Okay, so just kind of going down his resume, we see how he lines up. So he's first all time in blocks in the regular season, and third all time in the postseason. Okay, despite playing in just 145 postseason games. For context, he's the only player in the top 5 of this category of blocks in the postseason that didn't play at least 200 games. Okay, he's the only player other than Michael Jordan to be top 5 at their position in both blocks and steals per game. Okay, to give this a little bit more perspective, Hakeem is 10th all time in total steals. Okay, there isn't another center that comes in the top 50 in this category. Okay, he's one of just 3 players to register a 200 steal, 100 block season. The only other 2 being Mike and Scotty. Okay, and this is all in consecutive seasons that they accomplished this. He's one of only, again, 3 players to have at least 1 MVP, a Finals MVP, and a DPOY. The other 2 are Mike and Giannis. Okay, so he's 4th all time in defensive win shares, and this is actually a really telling stat. It speaks to his impact. So 4th all time in defensive win shares. Okay, for context, he trails number 3 is Kareem. Okay, he's right behind Kareem by just 0.02%, despite having played over 300 fewer games than Kareem. Okay, he's the only player to win all 3 of these awards in the same season. Okay? He's the only consensus top 10 player also. Now, this is where you can hang your hat on him. Okay, a little known fact, Hakeem is actually the only, I say consensus top 10 player, say whatever you want, but I'm treating him like he is. Let's put him at 10. He's the only consensus top 10 player who performed better in the playoffs than the regular season across all 6 major statistical areas, including overall field goal percentage. Okay, and I should say he's the only one whose stats either remained the same or went up. Only player ever to do that. Check it out. Okay, or rather in the top 10. So Hakeem is in rarefied air there, as we can see, as far as just his overall resume, as far as statistics go. Obviously, if we look at accolades and achievements, stuff like that, we went over that. We look at, he has, if you look at all NBA selections, he's top 10 all time in NBA selections with 12. Okay, more than Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, and Magic Johnson. He's tied for 5th all time with 9 all defensive selections, more than guys like LeBron and Shaq. And really, you got to look at his impact. Hakeem is I should say rarefied air a lot. Hakeem is right up there with the greats when it comes to measurable impact on a team. Way better than guys like Kobe, Magic. All these guys who you didn't really see the metrics of the team shift when they got there, during their playing career, and after they left. Flowing through, Hakeem guided his team through what is widely regarded as one of the most difficult runs ever in postseason history. In '95, the Rockets won the title. Were running a gauntlet. All 4 of their opponents had at least 50 wins, while the Jazz and Spurs both had at least 60. Okay, those opponents combined to form the highest SRS in for any postseason run at 28.45. What's more, the Rockets became the first and only team to win a title while defeating 450-plus win opponents without having home court advantage in any of those series. Okay. In the 2 years before he joined the Rockets, the club was averaging 15th in defensive rating and finished 19th the year before. During his tenure, they finished top 5 in that 8 times, top 10 12 times. Again, you see that kind of impact, measurable impact, very rarely. You saw it with Bill Russell, his effect on the Celtics. You saw it with David Robinson, Tim Duncan. These were the immediate and measurable difference makers on defense there. For example, Bill Russell added to the worst defensive team in the league, 1957. From that straight on, 11 straight years of number 1 in defensive rating. So it was with Hakeem. They immediately went from a middling to bottom tier defensive team to a couple years later, powerhouse. Okay, and Hakeem, the really thing about his career is he did this with, we always say this, right? Who had the least help of all time? Arguably Hakeem Olajuwon. Okay, his only defense, the only guy who had made even an all-star team or defensive accolade right here was Rodney McRae in 87-88. I should say all defensive team. Okay, Hakeem's still the only player, top 10 player in league history to win back-to-back titles without a fellow all-star team. Okay, offensively, it's the same story. You look at the metrics there. They were top 10. They were 23rd, dead last in the league before he joined. By a second year, they were top 10. So Hakeem is one of the few immediate difference makers we've ever seen in league history. His resume stacks up statistically, and we talk about accolades and achievement, it's right up there with the best. Obviously, there's better resumes to add, but to say he's not top 10, it's going to be a tough argument, I think, for Mr. Lee to make.
All right. That's good that you emphasized the 2 seasons he had. That was great for 5 minutes. So let's go on to why I think Larry Bird is better than. But you already agree. There's no reason to explain LeBron, Jordan, and Kareem, right?
Hey, I don't know what your top 10 is. You wouldn't give me the list.
I mean, there's no reason to. I could explain why LeBron and Jordan and Kareem is better than Hakeem. It'll be. I mean, I don't think there's an argument that he's better than them. That's why I don't really need to go over that.
Sure. No, I mean, I think
Yeah.
I think Kareem, LeBron, and Mike are.
There's no argument for those three for Hakeem. I'm sorry, zero argument that he's better than them. Zero.
I mean,
All right.
I mean, I think their resumes are untouchable.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go to Larry Bird. So I'm gonna start there. Larry Bird trumps Hakeem in regular season and postseason greatness. Period. Um, Larry has 3 straight MVPs in the regular season. Um, Arguably the best player in a decade. Those things Hakeem could not match, could not touch. Go to postseason. He led a dynasty to 5 finals, and Hakeem led the Rockets to 8 first-round exits, and 6 out of 8 years he lost in the first round. Um, Postseason success, Bird trumps that. Legacy success, Larry Bird's a legend. He resurrected the NBA with him and Magic. The league would have been completely fine if Hakeem Olajuwon never played a game in the NBA. Bird battled players like Magic, Kareem, Jordan, Moses, Dr. J, the Bad Boy Pistons for titles, and Hakeem battled a couple of 23-year-olds and Shaq and Penny to win, and a overrated bad knees guy in New York named Patrick Ewing with a grocery store clerk, John Starks. So there's, I mean, the only thing you can say that he has more blocks than Hakeem than Larry Bird, but legacy wise, Hakeem is nowhere near greater than Larry Bird in any sense of basketball. That's all I got. That's all I need.
Okay, so you basically said Larry Bird is your fallback guy.
He's one of the guys that he cannot replace in the top 10. If you thought he was in the top 10, there's no way he can replace Larry Bird.
Got it. So this is what I'll say, because it's going to be entirely up to the chat here. I mean, I already see some ridiculous takes, particularly from one boy here when trying to explain away Hakeem's greatness due to the era. Whenever you have to go to the era argument, you're already forfeiting your basketball knowledge card when you attack other eras. There, it's ridiculous. But anyway, Larry Bird, like I said, this is. I'm not trying to actually. So when he just says players, basically he said Larry Bird, right? You heard him say that earlier. He said Magic Johnson, but Larry Bird, he just said his greatness, right? What did that mean to him? He had his three straight MVPs, right? I already told you that Hakeem Olajuwon is the only one out of all these guys I mentioned. Forget Michael or forget Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. Out of everyone, LeBron, Jordan, Kareem, Tim Duncan. Not saying that has a greater resume than these guys, but he's the only one who raised his postseason game across the board. Did he always win? Does he have a bunch of rings? No, obviously. Again, now a lot of that has to do with the roster and what he was dragging to the playoffs, et cetera, to the finals year, whatever you want to say. But he's the one who consistently excelled and did it best out of arguably everyone that you're going to put him against across every single area. And I mean every area every major stat and field goal percentage. Okay. Now compare that to someone like Larry Bird, whose numbers actually go relatively down compared to his regular season. Same thing with Magic Johnson. He didn't raise his game. Same thing with, I mean, obviously the greats exceeded, but you don't have that same kind of consistency across the board. And what are we talking about? Just postseason success. Larry Bird came into the league basically with 2 surefire Hall of Famers and top 75 guys right away in McHale and Parrish in year 2. Again, and he had a a team loaded with Hall of Famers from the jump. Okay, and he only has one more ring than Hakeem Olajuwon. Like, make it make sense. Obviously, Larry Bird's a top 10 all-time guy. I'm not trying to discredit that, but when you just say postseason greatness, he wasn't better than Hakeem as far as team impact went. He wasn't better. Like, Hakeem beats him in all NBA selections. He beats him in all defensive selections. He has a DPOY. He has just as many Finals MVP Finals MVPs. Obviously, just literally the only thing Larry Bird has on him is literally 2 MVPs. Like, you're not gonna convince anyone that Larry Bird was just so much better than Hakeem when it came to the game of basketball. Hakeem is worlds better defensively. And you're talking about when you say that Hakeem didn't win as much, sure, he didn't. Obviously, there's a lot of context there, just like there is when people talk about LeBron's record or why Kareem only has 2 Finals MVPs. There's context. It wasn't that it's a knock on these guys. And if it is, if you use their failures or lowlights, as you call it, just for these players, like I know some of you clowns do, you aren't able to use that across the board when you're ranking them. I guarantee you don't have a criteria that factors that in. 100% you don't. Okay, Hakeem is almost second to none when it comes to lifting your team measurably. Obviously, not to a ring every single year. No one's saying that. No one's trying to argue that Hakeem's the GOAT either. But there's not 9 players better than him.
All right. Nice try. I guess you try to make the argument that he raised his team to all those first round exits. 8 times he was a first round exit player. But let's go ahead and move on to another player who he cannot knock out of the top 10, Magic Johnson. Just like Larry Bird, he resurrected the NBA. And we all know that most people consider him the greatest point guard of all time. And I guess it seems like the number 5 center of all time. I'm not sure. Like I said, just like Larry Bird, his regular season resume trumps Hakeem Olajuwon. The only thing you have is blocks, and both of these guys have 3 regular season MVP. That means that they were dominant. Both of them have more first team All NBAs because they were more dominant. Just like in the playoffs, they trump Hakeem Olajuwon. Like I said, he only won 76 games and had all those first round exits, and he missed 2 playoffs. So 10 out of his 18 years, he couldn't even make it out the first round. And like I said, he only won those 2 times because Michael Jordan was out the league. But when we look at, of course, Magic had a shorter career, even though he won more playoff games, more finals appearances, more titles, more MVPs, more finals MVPs, blows Hakeem off the map. Just like I said, all NBA first team blows him off the map. Just like Bird, he battled against dynasties, and he came, like I said, beat a bunch of kids on the Magics, and a guy with a whole bunch of knee pads on his knee to win 2 titles. So Magic is a superior offensive player. I don't really think there's no need to discuss Hakeem Olajuwon and his imaginary impact that he had on a whole bunch of losing and winning when Jordan was out the league. So there you go, Travis. Go ahead and try to debate why Hakeem is somehow better than Magic Johnson.
So this is what I was hoping actually you'd go to, and I'm appealing to the chat right now. All these guys, I'm assuming you guys tune in here every single week, and you guys contribute to the show. And I'm assuming, and giving you guys a benefit of doubt, that you guys have more than just superficial basketball minds. When you hear a bad take like the one Brandon just gave, it's called superficial. Whereas you're not looking at numbers, you're not looking at things that measure how well a team does with you when you're there and not there. You're just looking at overall results, rings. That's it. You're not looking at context. You're not looking at rosters. You're not looking at situations. You're only looking at the things which, are allow you to. Most casuals do. Magic Johnson came into, and like everyone knows though, Magic Johnson, another guy. Again, I have Hakeem over him. Magic Johnson, top 10 player, absolutely. Magic Johnson also came into the league with the reigning MVP. Okay, he won Finals MVP over Hakeem Olajuwon or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, while Kareem was averaging 33 points, 14 boards, 4 blocks. Okay, and again, so really in reality, if he doesn't get hurt, he has that. But again, Magic Johnson came into the best situation of all time. I've covered this in the past. Magic Johnson was on average for his first 4 finals trips, right? He was the 3rd and 4th option. Scoring option. Was he a great facilitator? Sure. But he has, again, He was not the best scoring option. He was far from the best defensive option. Hakeem was both of those things off the jump. Okay. And he came in at 85. His peak in prime lasted arguably, one of the shorter ones. Lasted until arguably 95, 96. But during that time, again, he has the 9 all-defensive selections. Magic Johnson has 0. He has more all-defensive, or he has more all-NBA selections than Magic at 12. Obviously, Magic's career was short, but it is what it is, right? As I explained before in detail, his impact on the team on both ends was way more than Magic Johnson. Again, Magic Johnson came in with guys like Prime Hakeem, future DPOY Michael Cooper, Jamal Wilkes. All those guys were handling the scoring option, more so than Magic Johnson was. And Worthy came in later and was doing that same thing. Okay, and then you had all these situations where Michael Cooper was winning DPOY. He had one of the top 10 coaches in NBA history. Okay, Magic's career broke just right for him. He went to an amazing team. Obviously, he was a transcendent player who elevated that team, sure. But to say that he was going to actually go ahead and be the best out of that was just nonsense. Or better than he had more impact. There's no way you can prove that other than he was part of a great team. He was a cog in a team that just won. Okay? And, I mean, you could argue, same thing how we're doing with Kobe, right? We're doing him dirty. Like, you could replace Kobe with usually any great guard from that, and they win. Who's to say that we can't play that game with Hakeem? But Hakeem did nothing but play transcendent basketball. Obviously, the same results weren't there compared to some of the other guys as far as ring count, but I think his career speaks for itself when you look at how he played, his stats and accolades and achievements, especially when he's arguably the best playoff raiser of all time as far as performance-wise. Way better than Magic Johnson.
All right. I don't know if you're being serious about him raising his game in the playoffs by losing so much in the playoffs. But when Jordan quit, but it's kind of hilarious that you try to make an argument that he's greater than Larry and Magic. So I'm gonna keep going. So I'm gonna go with Shaq next. Most dominant center since I guess Wilt Russell. His resume proves it. Um, we seen um, Shaq as a center, the best center since Kareem, and that includes Hakeem Olajuwon in that mix. Shaq was a better offensive player, best player in the league for multiple years. And that we could say that about Hakeem for 1 year, maybe. Um, Even though Hakeem was the so-called best center in the '90s, I guess we could say that. But he did beat a 23-year-old Shaq, so that's something that he has. Even though Shaq wasn't in his prime, head to head, Shaq trumps him. In the record, he has more points, more rebounds, more blocks, shot a higher percentage. Has more finals MVPs in him, led more teams to titles. He has more All Stars and All NBA teams. Compared to Shaq, is kind of not really a debate. Shaq trumps him as a center. I mean, Hakeem has more blocks in him, and I guess people like his footwork, which is outdated now. Shaq is bigger than life on and off the court, and everything about Hakeem compared to Shaq, it just comes up short.
Man, Mealy, I thought you'd come with more than that. I mean, that's his footwork is outdated, even though we had current greats who admittedly went to him. And especially if we're just talking center-wise, he was incredible. And that's added to why he was arguably a top 5 defender of all time in every position of the court. As far as Shaq goes, Shaq played longer than him, right? And you're talking about totals, which, I mean, I don't really care because we use totals all the time. Sure, that makes sense. But if you're talking about, again, his impact, led more teams to titles. He didn't lead Miami to a title, arguably, but he was part of that ring. Sure, Shaq is number 6 all the time. But if you're saying he was more impactful, I mean, what did he do in Orlando? He got swept in the finals, right? He was nowhere until he didn't see any measurable success until he had arguably another top 10 player of all time with him during his prime. One of the few examples where you see 2 top 10 players of all time coming together and winning rings while each of them is in their prime. When has that happened ever? Besides arguably maybe 82 Lakers. Okay, I mean, if you want to say Kareem was still prime in '85, go ahead. Okay, but if we're talking that it's never ever happened, I don't think it'll ever happen again. But Kobe was matching Shaq offensively in many of those series. He was their better facilitator. He was generating more points. He was winning first team all defense every single, or he was winning a defensive team every single year. He was with Shaq in the finals. Okay, so Shaq arguably had the most help in NBA history. He had Phil Jackson for he had a number of clutch players like Rick Fox, like Derek Fisher, obviously Kobe, but not taking anything away from Shaq. I'd have Shaq right at 6. I think he was the most dominant force we've ever seen physically. But again, Hakeem is, I want to say, arguably the best two-way player of all time. Especially if you're measuring his impact defensively, which I just went over. How the Rockets were, again, top 5 many of those years on Hakeem's prime watch, and never worth like top 10 when he was in his prime. And we talk about like Shaq really never had that kind of impact defensively. Okay, offensively he was great, but his success really hinged on basically the rival Kobe. Hakeem Olajuwon never had that kind of help, especially not when he was in his prime. Okay, talking about Clyde Drexler, who was a top 75 player, but he was not prime in '95. But again, I think Hakeem is better than Shaq as far as just the way from a two-way perspective and what he meant to that team, especially like when you look at the numbers. Okay, it's not even close for the impact that he had there. Obviously, Shaq, hard to deny his place in there, but when you're saying that, like he's one of the guys who's going to keep Hakeem off the list, no, I think Magic and Larry leave before Hakeem does.
All right. That's another pretty hilarious response to. I think you're just going to complain about things instead of actually making good arguments why a King's better than them besides blocks. But let's go ahead and move to Kobe Bryant, which is another player that Hakeem is definitely not better than. So already said Magic, Bird, Shaq, definitely Hakeem. I don't know what you're talking about, playoff rising to first round exits that you're talking about. I'm so confused by what Hakeem has done with all this playoff success you've been saying besides those 2 years. So let's go to Kobe. We all know Kobe's a like icon. He's legendary. He's beloved. Hakeem is kind of mid in everybody's mind, to be honest. Kobe's a scoring machine. Um, Hakeem blocked shots and spent around slow centers most of his time. Um, Hakeem dominated centers that LeBron could probably shut down to. So I'm not putting too much faith in what he did to those guys. So we can easily see that. Look at the centers that Jordan faced in the finals. I mean, LeBron will hold them players under 10 too, and take the ball from them too. So they could barely average double figures. But let me stop talking about those most of them trash centers in the '90s. So like I said, Kobe's top 5 in scoring in the playoff and regular season, which is a lot more valuable than Hakeem Olajuwon blocks. Kobe has the most All NBA and All Defensive first teams combined, with 20. Hakeem has 11 combined. Kobe basically has almost 2 times Hakeem. Kobe has more, all NBA, all defensive teams combined over Hakeem by far. Kobe, if you like to keep things in like position, Hakeem's top 5, number 4, number 7, like you like to keep that, which doesn't really make him a top 10 player, which makes him behind a lot of centers. But we talk about Kobe for shooting guards. He has the most all defensive teams for shooting guards, the most all NBA teams for shooting guards, the most all star selections for shooting guards, the most points for shooting guards, the most rebounds for shooting guards, most assists for shooting guards. Kobe has the most 60-point games that anybody since the merger, if you're not counting Wilt. He has the highest points in a game since the merger because of Wilt Chamberlain. Players live by the mama mentality. That's Kobe Bryant. Uh, Kobe, they think Kobe is this fierce competitor, while Hakeem Olajuwon spent around like a ballerina around big country and all those other slow centers, Kevin Duckworth and all that them other dudes. Um, Like I said, he definitely dominated a lot of those overweight centers in the '90s. No disrespect to them, but Hakeem is not a better two-way player than Kobe Bryant. He's just not. He blocked shots and he boxed out in the '90s. That's great. That's great. Coaches, players, media will all put him above Hakeem Olajuwon. True basketball fans will put him above Hakeem Olajuwon. I don't know how Hakeem's in this top 10 debate in the first place with those 8 first round exits. I mean, he only won 76 games, and the playoffs. Kobe got double that, double his finals appearances, double his titles. I mean, it's kind of nonsense to actually debate why Hakeem is better than Kobe. But I will let you try. I will let you try.
Better than Kobe, easily better than Kobe. I mean, you're talking about dominated slow centers like you mean prime quick Shaq when he gave him the business in the finals. You mean one of the most in shape physical specimens of all time in the NBA is David Robinson, was dominating him all throughout the '90s and especially early '90s. I mean, come on, that's just a completely disingenuous remark there. Hakeem gave everyone the business and the work, and like I said, when we're talking about Kobe Bryant wasn't even definitively couldn't even claim to be the best player on his own team the entire first half of his career, basically. Okay, what if you want to say he was better than Shaq in 2004? Go ahead. I still don't think so. Shaq still had a way bigger impact. He wasn't the best player until Shaq left. He wasn't even starting when he got into the league because he wasn't polished. He wasn't good enough to replace Eddie Jones, or at least I didn't think so. But yeah, Kobe was wildly unpolished when he came into the league. Hakeem was transcendent almost from the jump. Again, especially when you talk about impact. And you keep going to this argument where you're talking about just rings. You're only talking about rings. You're not talking about anything else. Yeah, Kobe has a lot of these things. Like I have Kobe at number 7. Okay, Kobe's right up there. I make the case for Kobe all the time. But you're talking about uh, you zero. Like you're talking about a player who with no context. Like I said, there's all these players here. Kobe's really the only exception. Maybe you could make an argument for Magic Johnson, where that guy didn't come into the league, that top 10 player, and wasn't immediately the best, the alpha, the guy who was expected to lead the team. He was not that guy. He was a bench player. He was a bench player. And he wasn't the best player on his team, again, for the first 7 years of his career. 8 years. Okay. And then obviously he racked up some more stats during the last 3 years where he wasn't even competing for a playoff berth. Ridiculous. Hakeem was every year. Yeah, has Hakeem lost in the first round plenty? Sure, absolutely. But like I mentioned before, out of all these guys, and I'm like you're not denying that. I'm not talking about him rising, leading his team to 10 rings. I'm talking about when you look performance-wise, Hakeem clears everyone as far as raising his game across the board in every statistic. You can't deny that. You haven't done it once. You just tried to deflect. You're just trying to deflect upon the ring count, things like that. Not using any context at how these rosters were built. Like what kind of playoff performances here. With Shaq, there's times where Shaq was let go, but that's when Kobe would step up and score 30, 40 points, grab 16 rebounds, like he did against the Kings. And how he was definitely the best player in the majority of the Western Conference playoffs, again, to help Shaq out. And vice versa. Again, what other top 10 players scored or won a ring while only scoring 15 points per game in a final series? No one. Okay, ridiculous. So Kobe Bryant, yeah, is he top 10? Sure, but he's absolutely had a share of help. Don't act like he came in and just was off the bat greater than someone like Hakeem or anyone else you want to say. That's a ridiculous take. Okay, so I mean, you're talking about like I said, you don't want to mention the dark side of Kobe. And you only have Kobe's back when you're trying to serve a point and put him up against someone who absolutely blows him away in almost every regard you want to talk about. Like he's more efficient than Kobe. He's a better shot blocker, far better defender in every single way. Does Kobe have more all defensive elections? Absolutely. But the Lakers were garbage defensively, basically all the way up until 2010 when Pau Gasol, and Pau Gasol, Adder Bynum, and Ron Artest were basically all working together. Again, and Bynum wasn't missing the entire season, but Kobe Bryant was not a difference maker on that end. Okay, from 05 to 2010, I believe the Lakers were on average, they were like between 15 and 21st in defensive rating, and that they tanked when Shaq left. Okay, so don't give me. I mean, if you want to talk about overall resumes, sure, Kobe has a great argument over Hakeem, but if you're talking about team impact and the way that things went like that, and who the better player was, It's Hakeem all day. I mean, like, the only way to raise Kobe over him is just the scoring aspect. That's really it. Just the scoring. Hakeem was a fantastic scorer too, but there's no argument you have to make Kobe better than Hakeem, other than that and who he played with.
All right. I'm just trying to not laugh too much at your arguments because I don't know. I explain a lot of things, and you only look at rings because Hakeem doesn't really have more than the players I'm talking about. And, he had the worst playoff success in any of these players I'm talking about, which is kind of hilarious. You know, you really didn't make an argument. You just complain about the context of Larry Bird and winning, the context of Magic and winning, the context of Shaq and winning, the context of Kobe winning. So let's go ahead and go to Tim Duncan. So you could complain about the context of Tim Duncan winning. So Tim Duncan, like we said, is known as the big fundamentals, and Hakeem is known as the dream. Hakeem could only dream to be as great as Tim Duncan. That's I'm pretty sure he dreamed that he was. McKean, Duncan, had a winning season every year. He wasn't getting bounced out the first round every year like Hakeem Olajuwon. Um, he won 50 games every time there wasn't a lockout season. Trumps him in finals appearances, trumps him in titles, finals MVPs. He got more regular season MVPs, has double the playoff wins than him, more double the series won than him. Yeah, the 76 wins for Hakeem is kind of laughable for anybody in trying to consider a top 10. The 8 first round exits for any top 10 player is kind of laughable. I know you try to bring up that I'm just talking about rings for some reason because Hakeem doesn't really have nothing but blocks. And he's a playoff riser while losing the first round almost every year and only have 2 asterisks as titles because Jordan quit. Kind of weird. I know Hakeem is the all-time leader in blocks. Tim Duncan is the all-time leader in the postseason. Tim Duncan is known as the greatest power forward of all time. Tim Duncan may be number 5 center of all time. Um, I didn't know a number 5 in your position could be ranked in the top 10. If there's not 5 centers in the top 10, it's kind of weird. It's actually kind of disrespectful to use Hakeem and Tim Duncan in the same sentence. But I'm going to see if you're going to complain about context and rings with you debate Tim Duncan, but I'll let you go.
No, I have Tim Duncan over Hakeem. I have Tim Duncan at 4. So I mean, I have no issue with that. I mean, then I have him for the same reasons. Yes, his resume. He has more of everything than Hakeem. He has more all defensive selections, which is important. He has more all NBA selections. He has obviously more Finals MVPs, more MVPs. But more importantly, he was arguably a better and more impactful player as far as the defensive side goes, and he did that immediately. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. He came in, and that team was obviously the best, the best from basically the time defensively until he retired. He had more of an impact, measurable impact than Hakeem Olajuwon, and his resume clears him. Okay, 2 very important things right there. So I have no problem with anyone saying Tim Duncan is a Hakeem Olajuwon because I have Hakeem or Tim Duncan ahead of Hakeem as well. Okay, I have him ahead of guys like Kobe, Magic, Bird, all these guys who came into fantastic situations, but again, all you're talking about is playoff exits. You're only talking about rings. You're not talking about substance. Yeah, context matters. We talk about it all the time on the show. Don't pretend like you're afraid of it. You've brought it up in plans. All of us have. We're all smart. We all know that basketball discourse without context means absolutely nothing. He's like some of these casual takes we're seeing in the chat here. And I mean, I'm not surprised with who they're coming from, but I mean, we have Duncan is over him for all the reasons I just mentioned. Tim Duncan excels statistically. He has longevity. He has productivity. Impact-wise, he's almost second to none. Second really only to Bill Russell. We're talking about the guy who came in, was automatically the best player in the league or the best player on his team. Not like a Kobe, not like a Magic Johnson. Like guys who couldn't even claim to be the best on their own team for at least the first 5, 6, 7 years of their career. Like, who else can you say that a top 10 guy, we're talking about top 10, right? But they were only the best, not even on their own team for for half of their careers. It seems kind of like a misnomer to me. Hakeem was the guy from the beginning, just like Larry Bird, just like Shaq, just like LeBron, like Mike. All these guys came in expected to be the best on both ends of the floor, and they were. The best 2-way players of all time. like LeBron, Mike, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You have David Robinson. Obviously, he's not top 10, but these guys all came in and were the best. Yet they weren't second fiddle. They weren't getting selected to all-star teams, averaging 13 points a game, riding the bench. No. Hakeem Olajuwon, I already explained, he by playoff riser, I mean statistically, he elevated his game more than anyone else in NBA history. He doesn't have 10 rings, obviously, but that's not even a question. You haven't debated that or denied that one time. You're just going to the playoff exits, okay? And Hakeem, like I said, he wasn't choking, he wasn't folding. It wasn't like he was losing, his team was losing because of him completely underperforming all these things, right? He's like everyone else where he's had down moments. But when you're talking about all these other players, the only thing you're going to at the end of the day is really just ring count. You're not, but again, you're not mentioning any context with their teams. You're just saying ring count, something they might have over Hakeem. Statistically, you're not looking at the entire picture. And you didn't do that with any player you just mentioned. The closest you came was really just Kobe Bryant. When you're talking about all NBA selections, how he excelled at his position. But you didn't talk about the effect he was having on the Lakers, how he was not able to lift that team to anything, playoff appearances or anything past the first round without Shaq. And that really didn't change until his team had to completely rebuild. So Hakeem Olajuwon is, when you look at, again, everything that matters in basketball, he checks almost every box. And obviously, if you're talking to rings, can't really fight you on that one. But to me, that's not the end-all, be-all. If it is to you, great. But, I think it's a very disingenuous argument.
Okay, Travis, you just keep rambling on. This is about Tim Duncan. You're talking about Kobe Bryant now. Like you're so
I have Tim
flustered.
over Hakeem.
You're so flustered that you're talking about things that we already talked about because I mean you don't. Kareem doesn't really have a argument in this matter. So let me go ahead and keep going. I already said Larry Bird, which anybody will pick Larry Bird over King. Magic Johnson, everybody pick Magic over King. Come on now, Shaq. Come on, Kobe. Come on, Tim Duncan. Yes. All right. So let's go ahead to Bill Russell, which we all know the greatest winner of all time. Not only that, he won 5 regular season MVPs, led more teams to titles than anybody in NBA history. Arguably the greatest defensive player of all time. Um, Bill Russell won 8 straight titles. Hakeem had 8 first round exits. Um, I think Bill Russell rebounding amazing. If the stats were collected, he had more blocks and steals than um, Hakeem Olajuwon. I don't even think of. I don't even really. I don't think it's a close debate between Bill Russell and Hakeem. I don't know what you could pick. That he's a playoff riser in the first round exits. Um, I don't know what nonsense you've been talking about other than him spinning around guys like Big Country and Kevin Duckworth. It's not really a realistic debate. I mean, King has a cool nickname. I guess we could have that over Bill Russell, but I'll let you explain that.
Okay, so again, I want you to hear this, guys, in the chat. I hope you are paying attention. Yeah, he said he's naming guys like Kevin Duckworth and Big Country, right? Brian Reeves. He's not talking. He doesn't want to talk about guys like Moses Malone, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was winning Finals MVPs while Hakeem was in the league, going up against those guys. He doesn't want to talk about Karl Malone. He doesn't want to talk about Prime Ewing, Prime David Robinson, Prime Shaq, Alonzo Mourning. He doesn't want to talk about all these actual guys that Hakeem was going to war with. Okay, and actually bet in the finals, things like that. He just wants to nitpick and cherry pick some of these guys that we could do that for any era, any team. So that's a completely distant and horrible argument right there. As far as Bill Russell goes, yeah, Bill Russell is. I've always said if everything was being equal, he'd be the GOAT because if every accolade and achievement was available to him, it wouldn't be close. But what we can say about him is that there is criticism to be had of his career. Especially, I don't think it's unfair to say that he did lean heavily, maybe more heavily than any other top 10 player in NBA history, off to have his team carry the load offensively. It wasn't like he was their best passer. No, he was far damn sure he wasn't their best scorer. And obviously he was their best defender, and he energized that offense from his rebounding, his get on the break, things like that. But Bill Russell, just for some context, I know you hate that, was on average during his first 5 title runs was on average the 5th leading scorer on that team. In 1959, he won a title as the seventh option. Okay, so I mean, do we give if that would have happened with any other guys that we talk about, anybody else in the top 10, would we give them the pass and say, yeah, they're top 10 just because they have 11 rings, just because they are the best defender on a team full of Hall of Famers, transcendent guys like Bob Cousy, like Tom Heinsohn, all these guys? Like, I don't think we give anyone else that credit. Obviously, no shit on Bill Russell. I think he's a pseudo goat, but I mean, ridiculous. I think that people they aren't allowed to talk about its offensive, but that's not the same with Hakeem Olajuwon. Obviously, I think he had a way better career than Hakeem, but if you're talking about, again, I keep going back to this, the guys who were expected to be the best on both ends of the floor didn't have the option to kind of defer to other people on either end. They're few and far between. LeBron never had that. Again, Mike for the first few years didn't have that. I mean, Tim Duncan didn't really have that either. Yeah, after he came in and David Robinson was like pseudo washed already. Again, Hakeem definitely didn't have that. Okay, so if you want to compare someone to Bill Russell, I mean, go ahead. But I think he was a better two-way player than Russell. Obviously, I think Russell was the better defender. I think Russell's the best defender of all time. And I think that's proven. But I mean, he wasn't a better two-way player. Did he have a better career than Russell or than Hakeem? Sure.
All right. So let me go down the list. Larry Bird, I said was better than Keem. You said it was context because of
You
his team he
said it.
played on. Magic Johnson was better than Larry Bird. Should be in the top 10. You said it's context because the team he played on. Shaq was superior than Hakeem. You said it was context because he played with Kobe. Kobe's better than Hakeem. You said it's context because he played with Shaq. Tim Duncan, you agreed. Bill Russell, I don't know what you was talking about. You should have just ended as yes, he was. All right, so I'm gonna go to Wilt Chamberlain right now, and I'm not even gonna spend too much time. Most dominant player ever, better than Hakeem offensively and defensively. I'm done. There's no argument with Hakeem over Wilt Chamberlain, other than he had more first round exits and has a cooler nickname, maybe.
Well, again, these are players that you said no. You're like, okay, we're not going to talk about top five players. Either you're not ranking guys like Bill and Will, or they're top five with a bullet. I mean, obviously they're guys whose resumes are so untouchable, but then I think there's a reason why you wouldn't give me your consensus top 10 players before this match. I think you're just throwing names out there, okay? And I've admitted that there are guys. I'm not saying that Keem's the goat, but there are guys whose resumes are super untouchable. But I mean, as far as Wilt Chamberlain goes, I mean, I'm not. I think he was probably just as great as a two-way player as Hakeem Olajuwon. I mean, he shot. Talk about volume shooting through the first nine years of his career. He averaged, I believe, 28 shots a game, and yeah, he was efficient. And he'd probably average a triple double or close to it with blocks if that was counted back then. But yeah, Bill Russell rewrote the record books. He was an unstoppable force, and he was arguably the best rebounder in league history. So, I mean, I don't really care what era it is. If you're dominating, you're dominating. It doesn't matter. The era does not matter. And here's why it's stupid to actually point out why, oh, they did this against this defense or things like that. It means because every single person in any era had the same advantages and disadvantages as anyone else. You can't play time machine basketball. It's the dumbest thing. It really just says that you're either biased, a casual, or both when you start to do that. Not talking to you, Brent. I'm talking to all these people who are trying to dismiss Hakeem because of the era that he played in. But Wilt, I think, is greater than Hakeem. And I think that if you have Wilt on your list and you rank him regardless of era, then I don't think he's worse than 3 or 4, right? But it really just depends. I mean, obviously the accolades are a little bit disingenuous because there weren't really any All-NBA or defense things like that. It wasn't a DPOY. So it's hard to actually make that argument that Hakeem was greater than Wilt Chamberlain. And again, I'm actually just making it against players that I knew would be on the bottom half of the list. And because, like I said, I don't think Hakeem's the GOAT by any stretch.
Okay, so you have Hakeem as top five, and I don't think I named anyone who most people have consensus as top 10. So it's not like I'm naming these players who shouldn't be top 10. I already said LeBron, Jordan, Kareem, Larry Bird, Magic, Shaq, Kobe, Duncan, Bill Russell, and Will Chamberlain. That's 10 players right there. So that's 10 players right there that most people have in their consistent top 10 majority of the time, and Hakeem should not be there. So I'm gonna talk about another player. Steph Curry. So Steph Curry is creeping up in the top 10. He's one of the players who changed the way the game is being played today. Hakeem didn't change anything, but spinning around. His shooting ability is, taking storm from, kids to the NBA players. He's known as the greatest shooter of all time because he has the most three pointers made. He led more teams to titles, more regular season MVPs, unanimous MVP as well. That's on his notch as well. Um, Even in the Olympics, what he did in the Olympics changed a lot of people's minds about how great he is. Steph Curry is extremely efficient. Winning is superior as well. And I'm not sure what we can say to put Hakeem above him, other than he was a great shot blocker in the 90s. But Steph Curry is a legend upon legend and will live on as a greater player than Hakeem Olajuwon in any sense of the game. So I would leave it up to Travis to let me know why Steph Curry, why Hakeem Olajuwon is above a fringe top 10 player.
Because when I'm going to put Hakeem Olajuwon over any one-way player anytime, especially when you're a transcendent two-way player, and I've proven that with anything you want, stats, team effect, accolades. Hakeem is really second only to Bill Russell when it comes to not just the best defenders, but I should say, I'm sorry, second only to someone like Jordan or hell LeBron for a stretch of his career. If you're talking about just pure the best two-way players of all time, no, it's not close. Hakeem, yeah, does Steph Curry have a hand in changing the game? Sure, to what we've seen, absolutely. Is he the greatest shooter of all time? 100%. But again, he still hasn't matched. Hakeem Olajuwon still has more accolades and achievements than him. I mean, he has obviously the DPOY, which in there. He, has the Finals MVPs. Obviously, the MVPs and the ring count is favoring Curry. But if you're talking about team impact, especially with, I know you hate this, but there's zero chance that we're talking about Steph Curry's top 10 player if Durant hasn't gone there and they don't beat LeBron James 2 years. Okay. And again, is there another instance where you're losing Finals MVPs to a player on their team who's better than you, who's better during the regular season, postseason? And does that not count? Like, you're just talking about the end result, but you don't mention how they got there. Okay, it wasn't Steph Curry carrying his team to 4 rings. It was him being great offensively, them pairing him getting his first ring because all of LeBron's help went down. That's the contest that you don't mind. I know, right? If I do mention that, but when it's LeBron or when it's Steph Curry, when he rings, the context is there, right? All about Durant, but you don't want to knock him because of that help. But you'll talk about the total ring count that Hakeem doesn't have, compare relatively speaking, and that knocks him, right? He's better than Steph Curry. If you want to talk about efficiency, overall things like that. Was he the better scorer? I don't think so. I think he was a great scorer for a big man. And again, defensively, if you're the best on both ends every single year, and again, you have as many accolades and achievements as Hakeem does, you have the back-to-back Finals MVPs, you did it with the least help of all time, you are above someone like Steph Curry, in my opinion. Okay, because you're carrying this team to any success. I don't care if it's wins, losses, playoff appearances, whatever you have there. Again, it's how you do it, how important you are to your team, and who you're winning with. He's better than Steph Curry almost across the board, especially in the playoffs. Go look at the numbers.
I don't want to look at those numbers because it wouldn't be fair to Hakeem. So you're making false statements that you don't believe. You said the reason that you're putting him because you will put a two-way player above a one-way player all the time, which is not true. That's a complete lie. And you would, yeah, and that's a lie. I don't know why you said that. You don't
Who
believe that.
name the
You don't
lie?
believe that because you
Name
don't.
the lie. Why did I
Do,
know?
would
I don't believe
would you
that.
put Kawhi Leonard over Magic Johnson?
If they had similar resumes,
Do you
sure.
put no one? Hakeem doesn't have a similar resume to anybody. He's
Yeah, he
lacking. That's
does.
the reason. So would you put Kawhi Leonard above Magic Johnson?
As a two-way player, just
Would you
one-on-one,
put
sure.
Would you put him above Magic Johnson as a greater player?
Kawhi has no MVPs. Okay.
Okay. Would you put him? It's a simple question. Would you put him above Magic Johnson as a greater player?
A greater player? No.
Why the hell would you put Hakeem Olajuwon above Magic Johnson as a greater player? It's the same thing. He has less everything.
No, he doesn't have less everything. He literally does not have less everything. He has more All NBA selections. He has more All Defensive selections. He has better statistics in the playoffs as far as
Better
if you
stick to the playoffs. What are you talking about?
Again,
he got more first round exits. That's about all he has in the playoffs overall.
That's not a statistic. You're being completely disingenuous.
That's the only thing he has over him is losing more in the first round.
See, that's all you're talking about. Kawhi Leonard only has 2 rings.
Okay,
right?
All right.
How is he? If you make the case that he's above Magic Johnson, that's a ridiculous take.
So you want me to make a case that Kawhi's above Magic Johnson?
You just said that my take is disingenuous about my two-way perspective because I
don't believe that. Yes,
all time.
You don't have Kawhi above Magic Johnson. So why would you continue to say a two-way player is above
his
a
overall resume from any perspective, is nowhere near Magic's.
So what? I mean, Hakeem's not either.
Sure, it is, and I just spelled it out. How?
Who has more first-team All NBAs?
Who has more total
Who has
MVPs?
more MVPs? Who has more Finals MVPs? Who has more titles?
More titles. Okay, yeah, that's all. That's all you're going to hang your hat on.
All of those things.
Magic has 0 defensive selections. Magic has 0 DPOYs.
Who has more series? Like all of that trumps blocks. I'm sorry.
No, it doesn't.
All of those trumps blocks. I'm sorry. That it just trumps blocks.
Mm-hmm.
What he did as a accomplished player trumps blocks. Simple as that. All right, so let's go ahead and move on because that's 11 players right now, and all you can say is a two-way player, and he was the context and how he improved his team in the playoffs without having success, which is a weird thing to keep saying. But all right, so let's move on to Julius Erving. I'm just still confused about everything. Is the context why it just doesn't make any sense why you keep saying that, and you continue to constantly say that.
But you haven't debunked anything I've said one time. I've mentioned.
Why? How can I debunk? And he's far inferior to everybody in accomplishments in their career besides blocks.
No, he's not.
You literally tried to say that he's better than Larry Bird because of blocks. That's ridiculous.
One thing, and I want the chat to know this too. Like this is Freddie has selective memory where he's ignoring. When he's talking about guys like Larry Bird, guys like Magic Johnson, he's like Hakeem doesn't match him. I already mentioned, especially like let's take Larry Bird for example. Again, Hakeem Olajuwon has a more impressive resume where he has more All NBA teams. He has way more All Defensive selections. He has the DPOY. He has better metrics across the board as far as if you want to go analytics, he blows him away. He's a far better playoff performer than guys like Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. Okay, that's just statistically. Again, if you want to talk about overall team success, which again, team success, then sure, those guys are way up there. But again, if you aren't willing to have a conversation where you talk about how that road happened, and you're just saying, well, this guy's better because he has more team success, that is the most casual take. You guys even talked about that. How that's the stupidest take of all time.
Who the hell thinks Hakeem had better postseason success than Larry Bird and Magic Johnson? Besides,
what are you talking about? You're just either you're not hearing what I'm saying or you're just choosing to ignore it. No one ever said that Hakeem Olajuwon had more playoff success. I said that he was the better playoff performer across the board.
Losing? How can you perform better if you're not winning?
Ask LeBron James. Okay, in 2015, where he averaged damn near triple-double.
He was in the finals. He's not losing in the first round. He's in the finals.
It doesn't matter.
In the finals,
okay.
You're talking about first round.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what round. If
he's performing better than Larry Bird and Magic Johnson in the playoffs. Are you serious?
You are either you don't know. You just don't know the game, or like their history, or you're just using names. You're just all you do is using names to make your point. You're not using stats. You're not using teams. It's ridiculous.
Okay, you could say that he's performed better than certain players, but when you lose Larry Bird and Magic Johnson How can you even form a sentence to say that with those two players? You could not form a sentence to say that with those two players. Just
What are you
cannot.
talking about?
You could not form a sentence to say that Hakeem Olajuwon was a better
When
playoff
I say
performer than
Magic
Larry
Johnson
Bird
wasn't the best
and
player on his
Magic
own
Johnson.
team,
You
Magic
cannot
Johnson wasn't
form a
the best
sentence
player.
with that. Serious. I
What are you
mean,
talking? You're just
I
using
have
the
never heard
name.
this in my life. I'm sorry.
All
I
you're
have
doing
never
is
heard
using
this
the
in my
name.
life.
I know you haven't because you're in a
I
hole.
have never heard this in my
All you're
life.
saying is
This is
when Magic
amazing.
Johnson wasn't even the best player on his own
This is
goddamn team
amazing.
for the
This is
first
amazing.
6 years of his career,
So
you
the
have no
first 6
response to
years,
that.
for the first 6 years, who was the best player on his team?
Obviously, Kareem. Kareem was leading them
Was
defensively,
better than Magic
offense.
Johnson the first 6 years of his career, even though he had multiple Finals MVPs the first 6 years of his career.
He had one Finals MVP.
He has multiple first 6 years.
No, okay, so
He
Finals MVP,
probably
right?
had 3 at that time. He
Finals
probably had
MVP.
3 at that time.
No, he had two. He had two.
Okay,
One
he
in
had
80,
2.
undeserved. 182.
82.
Even though
Undeserved. It doesn't
Kareem
matter. He
was
still got it.
out rebounding, outscoring him, more blocks. That by far the best player.
That's literally like saying when Penny Hardaway led the league in scoring in 5 games in the 97 playoffs that he was a better performer than Michael Jordan. That's literally what you say because you perform well in the first round. That
No,
does
that's
not
what you
make
just
any
said
sense.
because you said Magic
That is
Johnson was a better
literally
player
what
than
you're saying.
Kareem.
That's literally what you're saying. But
You said
I'm gonna
because
move
Magic
on
won in 80.
because somehow you don't understand what greatness is. You're leaning towards what someone did in the first round compared to
No,
what someone did throughout the regular season and the postseason to put themselves in a position to be an NBA champion. All right,
no,
so
not
let
at
me
all.
move on.
Put
Yeah,
himself in a position.
no.
You're talking about someone who got outperformed
Okay,
by his
Travis.
team,
This is weird. This
and
is
he won
weird.
Finals
What you're
MVP.
doing.
But that
This
kind
is
of a
really
short sample size doesn't matter to you.
this
Okay,
is
go ahead.
weird what you're doing, Travis. Like, no,
No, what's
I
weird is
really
your
want to see.
lack of
I really want
understanding.
to know who believes that Hakeem was a better playoff performer than Larry Bird and Magic Johnson when we're done, because this is your whole argument for somehow. But let me go ahead and move on. I already named 11 players, so I'm going to go with Julius Erving, Dr. J, which we know was dominant in the ABA and NBA. In the ABA, the league they say was a little bit better than NBA at that time. They had something that was great called a postseason MVP, which is better than the Finals MVP. I'm not sure why they never did that in the NBA. Postseason MVP is so much better, but he has 2 of those. He has multiple titles. I believe it was 3 total MVPs in both leagues. We all know that he's legendary. Most people' favorite player and model his game after Dr. J. He carried the 80s. His swagger is what, the players are continue to, captivate. Jordan did the same thing. Now we have players, have that swagger like Dr. J had. And, Dr. J had 30,000 points and 10,000 rebounds as a small forward, which is pretty, impressive. He had all defensive teams in the ABA. He was literally a good two-way player back in the 70s. His legendary status will always trump Hakeem Olajuwon. And like I said, those blocks is not going to push him above Dr. J in any sense of the way.
Okay, I like you keep going back to it's just blocks. I mentioned several metrics where he's up, like he's either top 4, top 5, stuff like that. And he did that while playing way fewer games, relatively speaking. A lot of these other guys we're talking about. Dr. J, it's rare that you ever see him on anyone's top 10 list. I know he damn sure isn't on yours.
Yeah, and he's above. This is the 12th player I named that he's above Hakeem as well. So he's not even top 12.
No, he's not above a game. So what happens is like I said, I'm almost ready to let we can actually go to the chat because I don't know, it's gonna be tough because on the one hand, you're naming players. I'm explaining how Hakeem is better. Your only refute to that and rebuttal is that they won more. It's not about the stats. It's not about their impact on the team. You don't care who they played with or their situation. Like I told you, Magic he won a Finals MVP even though Kareem was far better than him that season in 82 and all the way up until 85. But that doesn't matter. None of that matters. Magic was a winner and came in with league MVP. That doesn't matter. You would have crucified Hakeem if you did that too. None of that matters. Larry Bird, same situation. Came into one of the best teams of all time in year 2. Okay. That does not matter. It's just how many rings he has. Okay. Never mind that Hakeem is way better on arguably both ends of the floor. Obviously, Bert's a better shooter, but way better than Magic on both ends of the floor. And none of that matters to you, though. Not the production, not the actual playoff stats. It's just the end result of them winning or losing is how you're ranking these players. I mean, just say that. Because I pointed out Kobe. You didn't care that Kobe wasn't starting. You didn't care that he was in no way, shape, or form the best player until of his career on his own team. Never mind the league. On his own team until basically year 7. That you don't want any part of that conversation. Those things do not apply to guys like Hakeem Olajuwon. Hakeem, again, was a wildly impactful player on both ends, basically his entire career, or at least the majority of his prime. Okay, from day one, there was nobody he could defer to. He didn't play with another top 10 all-time guy. He couldn't. There wasn't some guy that you could say, "Hey, can you carry the offense tonight? Can you be the best defender or the best offensive guy for half the season?" Didn't have that option. Neither did any of the other greats that we always praise for that same thing, like early Shaq, really, or Jordan or LeBron. These guys like Tim Duncan, they didn't have the option to defer. Okay, but you don't want any of those conversations. If you're just going to ignore all that without refuting, I think we're done.
I guess we're done because this is top 10 all time, not who has context. This is top 10
context
greatest
matters.
players all time. There's
when you're ranking,
top
context
10
matters.
players all time. If you put him in the top 10, he will have the lowest winning success that anybody in the top 15.
There we go. You guys heard that. It's all about just winning and losing. Nothing else matters.
You cannot be the lowest. You cannot be the lowest and be compared in the top 10. You cannot have no success with winning, and the only winning you have is when Jordan quit. That player is not in the top 10. You have to actually elevate your team out of the first round more than when Jordan quit.
Why? That's just your bias. That's just your bias.
A top 10 player. There's no player in the top 10 with any legitimate top 10 that has a player with as low as winning as Hakeem in the top 10.
As low as winning, you just mean ring count, correct?
Winning, period.
Winning. Okay.
All those
so again, I'm glad you guys are hearing this.
Lowest games won in the postseason of any player that I've mentioned.
I'm glad you guys are hearing this because I explained how Hakeem is one of the more dominant playoff performers of all time statistically.
Dominant by losing.
Yeah. See, that's all about it. It's a casual take. You're just saying the end result's all about it. It doesn't matter how they perform. But that logic doesn't apply to anyone else in this situation except for
it applies to everyone in the top 10.
No.
The top 10 are the greatest winners. The top 10 are the greatest winners, not the greatest players who lost in the first round.
Okay. So let me ask you a question, Brandon. What if Kareem Abdul-Jabbar retires in 1980 with 2 rings? Is he still top 3?
If he retires when?
If he retires in 1980.
1980 with how many rings?
2 rings.
2 rings, most likely because he would not be nowhere near statistically dominant as he was if he played those extra 8 years.
Okay, so winning wouldn't matter in that situation, just his stats.
He didn't have enough winning for everyone else as well. He wouldn't have enough winning. You have to be the greatest winners to be in the top 10.
Okay, so where do you rank him then? If he only has the two, let's say he wins Finals MVP because he should have that year. Let's say he had 2 Finals MVP, 2 championships. Where do you rank him then? If he retires,
I have no idea.
He has one of the best 10-year careers of all time. 6 MVPs, dominant statistically during that, basically the best era or decade anyone's ever had as far as statistical titles and accolades, achievements, awards. Being an actual floor raiser as far as wins, losses. His team is lottery team without him. All this stuff. He goes to Lakers in 75. That doesn't matter.
Okay. So you're saying that he'll have the same amount of titles, the same amount of Finals MVPs, but 5 more regular season MVPs than Hakeem? Is that what you're saying?
No, I just want to know where you rank him because you said
I will rank him above Hakeem Olajuwon if he has 5 more regular season MVPs.
Is he top 10?
I have no idea, but he would definitely be ranked above Hakeem, who's not in the top 10.
Okay, so basically, you're saying that him playing right, and then him winning rings and having the most success, right, of his career, which he did when he went to, let's say, 85, right, when Magic was prime. Then they went to the finals in 84, 85, 87, 88, 89, and all that winning, all those rings, when he wasn't the best player on his team, definitively after that time, that still counts towards, and he was the fourth option, in no way, shape, or form better than any of these guys we're talking about, but the majority of his success came in that time. You're still putting him over someone like Hakeem Olajuwon.
Hakeem Olajuwon resume is lacking for anybody. If you name 10 players, there's 10 resumes better, and all 10 of them will be better winners. You cannot put someone in the top 10 because they got a lot of blocks.
That's far from the reason. I already explained it.
You just could not put him in the top 10 because he performed well when he lost in the first round. You cannot put him in the top 10 because he got a cool nickname. You cannot put him in the top 10 when he doesn't even have any type of charisma, no swagger, no nothing. He's not memorable. There's nothing about top 10 that says Hakeem Olajuwon.
Here you go,
I'm
but
sorry.
so top 10 isn't about basketball anymore. It's about swagger. It's about charisma.
He has none of
how
that.
memorable you are off the court.
On top of that, he doesn't have that as well. He has none of that. He doesn't have the resume. He doesn't have the winner. He doesn't have the legendary status. He doesn't have anything but blocks.
And remember, guys, I already went over how he's statistically better in the playoffs than guys like Magic Johnson, Larry Bird.
He's better than nobody, but he can't make it out the first
accolades.
round.
He has the DPOI. He blows them both away in defensive accolades as well. All that means absolutely nothing. It's just they have more MVPs and the ring count. The stats don't matter. I already said he's again top 4 in defensive win shares. He's the best. He won in blocks all time. And
who is the 3 above him in defensive win shares? You know,
Kareem, Bill Russell, and Tim Duncan.
Okay, all 3 that's better than him. Okay, yeah, that's pretty obvious.
Obviously.
Yeah.
No arguments.
Yeah, there's literally no argument for Hakeem to be in the top 10. I mean, that's cool that you say that he had some good stats when he lost in the first round. I mean, it's cool that you say he got some good blocks, and it's good that he has some good steals when he was losing in the first round in the regular season. But as a top 10 player, you need more than that. You need to make a stamp on the game.
So it doesn't matter if you're basically the best at your position. As far as, like I mentioned,
best at his position.
He was the best two-way center of all time.
Number 5 center of all time. He's not the best at his position. He's number 5 all time. He's behind Wilt. He's behind Russell. He's behind Shaq.
No.
And he's behind Kareem. He's behind all 4 of those players, and is maybe number 5. If you put Tim Duncan as a center, which I do, he's behind Tim Duncan. He is not you cannot put a number 5 in your position in the top 10, period. You cannot put those other players who's ahead of him in the center above him. He's not better than Shaq. He has never been better than Shaq. He's not better than Shaq. He's nowhere near better than Kareem, Wilt, and Russell. It's not possible. Hakeem Olajuwon was a good player in the 90s. Just leave him there. He's
all right, guys, so 10. You've heard all of this, and King's Speech, I'm not knocking the greats. I'm applying context because he's using them to knock.
You have knocked every player that I have stated, and you said negative things about him. You cannot keep it to the numbers. You want to be negative about Larry Bird and how he only came to a great winning team. You said same thing about
it's not negative. It's
Magic.
being factual.
You said the same thing about Kobe.
It's not
you
negative.
Want to be negative because Hakeem Olajuwon is lacking. So
not
you
negative
cannot
would say
make
that they're
a good
chokers.
argument besides blocks.
There's
blocks to these guys.
You're only saying blocks because I mentioned that as one of the pieces of his puzzle. That's all you have. You're just repeating it like
that's
a 4-year-old
all
girl.
Hakeem Olajuwon has is blocks.
No, it's not.
You just said he's a better playoff performer than Magic and Bird because he has more blocks in the regular season.
Nope,
that doesn't make any sense, Travis.
Because he has the better numbers.
Doesn't make any sense, Travis. He doesn't have better numbers.
Yes, he does. We can pull up the numbers there if you want.
Like Bird and Magic and went to the finals and mastered a decade of dominance. He won because
and that was
Michael
all
Jordan
them, right?
The game of basketball. He has 2 seasons and Michael Jordan quit and he pounced on it.
See, I
So
like how you
sorry,
have no
asterisk.
response to that though. Like you're just saying Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. Even though I've told you why they weren't as good on Hakeem's level, you're just saying
You
that
said
they're
because
better
they was a
because of the
two-way
end result,
player,
the
but
winning.
you
That's
do
it.
not believe a two-way player is better than a one-way player because you do not have Kawhi Leonard above Magic Johnson. You do not believe the words that are coming out of your mouth right now. You're
Does
just
Kawhi
saying
Leonard have
things.
more All NBA
You, you
selections than
just
Magic
you
Johnson?
just saying things. So he doesn't have all first team NBA selections than Magic Johnson, just like Hakeem Olajuwon does.
Okay.
Hakeem Olajuwon may have a whole bunch of third team selections because he was the third best center in the league in the 90s and the 80s. Magic
Yeah,
Johnson
you're
was
just
the
saying
first
things at this
team
point.
because he was great.
You're throwing
He
things
was
against the
great.
wall.
He
Nobody's
has
stick.
3 regular season MVPs. Hakeem has 1 because Michael Jordan quit the game of basketball. He has 2
See,
Finals
it's
MVPs because
comments like
Michael
that,
Jordan
which
quit
is
the game of
ridiculous.
basketball.
Yeah, even though they never met in the playoffs, there's no reason to believe that that would have went anyway. You're saying they only went there because Mike was gone. But like I said, guys, he did not. And this is one thing I want you guys to take away in the chat. When I said he's better, and I said I gave you the numbers, I gave you the stats, I gave you the examples as to why he's better in the playoffs than someone like Larry Bird, than someone like Magic Johnson. Just because, and he said this, just because the pure winning wasn't there for Hakeem compared to someone like Magic. Magic's automatically better than him all time. That's exactly the reasoning he used. It
I
doesn't
didn't say
matter that
better.
we
He's
can
a
look back
greater
and say
basketball player than him. Greater
it doesn't.
basketball
And
player
we're
than him.
not allowed to talk about the team Magic was on. We're not allowed to give any kind of context, even if it's negative. If we mention that, it's negative to talk about their rosters, how they were much better than the Rockets every single year of his career. It doesn't matter that Hakeem was a far more impactful player, measurably impactful too, by offensively, defensively, in any way you want to do it, than Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. Okay, it's only about the winning. Now, if that's it, if you guys feel that way too, I give up, and I concede 100%. But I think you guys are a little bit more nuanced than that, and would agree with me that there's a lot more that goes into it than just rings, right? And again, I gave you what Hakeem excels at. I give you that he's one of the best playoff performers statistically of all time. I give you that even despite his relatively short prime period, he was great statistically all time, cumulatively, whatever you want, especially defensively. I give you that he's how he stacks up to the all-time top 10, the grades as far as all NBA awards, all defensive team selections. He has a 2 Finals MVPs. He has an MVP. He has a DPOY. I told you how he was in rarefied air with all those things, how he won them. I give you context and stats about his team winning and what they went through to do that and how that put him in rarefied air too. I gave you all these things, and Brandon says none of that matters because guys like Larry Bird, Shaq, Magic Johnson, Dr. J, they're all above Hakeem because of the ring count. That's it. Steph Curry too. Okay, so we'll go ahead and wrap this up there. We'll see if we can actually get people up here to give their takes. And I'm shuddering to think what they might be. Oh God! Yeah,
Let's go
of course.
ahead.
I was talking negatively about Rose boyfriend Magic Johnson. So here it comes. What's your take there, Ro?
Yeah, y'all. Hold on 1 second. I got a little background noise.
Yeah, a lot of it.
I think y'all do too much of knocking players to put them on top.
Okay. Which player of the top 10 do Hakeem Olajuwon trumps that I listed?
So wait a minute. Who's your top 10 again, Brandon?
Yeah.
That's what I'd like to know.
I forgot you don't like to list
Okay,
your top 10.
let me go. I'm gonna go by player. Larry Bird. Is Hakeem a greater player than Larry Bird?
No, not my opinion.
Magic Johnson.
No.
Shaquille O'Neal.
Arguably, but no.
Kobe Bryant.
No.
Tim Duncan.
Yes, in my opinion. I know I'm gonna get torn up for that, but yes, I think he's better than Duncan.
Bill Russell.
But not Kobe? What?
No.
Bill Russell, and the last one is Wilt Chamberlain.
No.
All right.
I got Hakeem right on the edge of my 10. He's my 10.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I just don't think he's top 10. Travis thinks he's a better playoff performer than Magic and Bird, which I think is
which
kind of
is
ridiculous.
cap. Again,
So,
cap. That's why.
yeah, I know. I don't know how he
Good
could form a
play.
sentence. So so let's go to Juan Boy real quick and let me ask him this question. So Juan Boy, so I'm gonna go down the list. Is Akeem better than Larry Bird?
Nah,
Magic Johnson,
no,
Shaquille O'Neal,
no,
Kobe Bryant,
no,
Tim Duncan,
hell no,
uh, Bill Russell,
no, of course not.
and last one, Wilt Chamberlain.
Nah,
Do you have Akeem in your top 10?
he. I don't have the top 10, but he is not a top 10 player.
Okay,
In
all
the
right. All right, let me bring on Tyson is here. So let me see what he has. All
Wait,
right,
you're just gonna skate past that, B Lee?
no, I'm gonna get that stuff, but I'm gonna just ask them this list. All right, Tyson, is Hakeem greater than Larry Bird?
Yeah.
No, okay. Is Hakeem greater than Magic Johnson?
Yes.
Okay. Is Hakeem greater than Shaquille O'Neal?
No.
Is Hakeem greater than Kobe Bryant?
No.
Is Hakeem greater than Tim Duncan?
No.
Is Hakeem greater than Bill Russell?
No. I don't rank Bill Russell, but I never watched enough '60s basketball, but so I stay out of that one.
Okay, is Hakeem greater than Wilt Chamberlain?
Same thing. Same thing. Same
Is
matches.
Hakeem okay? Is he greater than Julius Erving?
Julius Irvin. Yes.
Yep. All right. Steph Curry.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have Hakeem ranked pretty high. All right.
Eight,
Okay.
nine.
King Row. Go ahead and let me hear your breakdown.
Well, again, in my opinion, the team is probably the second greatest defender in history. Like when it comes to overall impact. Um, like in an all time draft, I'm picking him pretty high because you can build both offense and defense around him. His the dream shake, y'all think that's just like a fancy name for it, it absolutely decimated. He decimated guys. He decimated all time greats. He had more competition at center than any era in history. And I get, all right, maybe the '60s had more great centers per team, but he had to go up against 6, 7, and this is competing for awards, accolades, and the whole nine. Competing against Mutombo for all defensive teams and things like that. Mutombo was a great one-way, impactful defender. Gave you good enough rim running and solid offense to be an all-star, but again, you got guys that every night was a battle. Whether it's an average center or a black center, every night was a battle because you had the physicality you had to deal with. Again, one thing about Akeem was being a practicing Muslim, fasting for Ramadan, he would literally only be drinking water and vitamins, and that would kind of hurt him, and then he would have to recover in playoffs. Now, again, does that explain the 5 first-round exits? No, not necessarily. Um, he didn't have great
Eight
Hall of Fame
eight
talent
first
around.
round
That's
exits.
why this is one thing that I say about Duncan. Every year of his career, he got drafted to a 50-win roster and had a Hall of Famer. Because Robinson, that first 4 or 5 years, was still a great player. As Travis mentioned when we debated last week, Robinson was top 10 in MVP voting by 2001. So he still had great talent every step of the way. Akeem didn't have that. Now, I'm not going to act like Akeem had a bunch of meatballs, but again, he didn't have perennial all-star level Hall of Fame talent around him. And then when he did win, he did it in dominant fashion. He dominated, absolutely embarrassed Shaq in the finals. Again, Shaq is the guy that got swept 5 times in the '90s himself. 5 years and 5 times in 7 years. Akeem had a couple of bad losses. You can explain it to playing against a great team, like when they got swept by the Lakers, stuff like that. But Akeem was definitely I mean, again, impactful defender, absolute artist on the offensive end. You can play the inside-outside game. You could draw up a three-point attack based on the fact that he's going to draw double teams in that post all the time because there was no single guy on the planet that could guard him. So that's just my take for Hakeem. He's on my 10. If he had more rings, he'd probably be higher up in there, maybe 7, 8, in the upper, about right outside the top 5. But just what he was, and even if you take the rings out, I'm not. He's going no lower than 15. If you got a list that don't have him in the top 15, I don't respect it because even I have Duncan in the top 15. That's just
Okay,
Duncan
so
top 15.
so Shaq at 22 averaged 28, 12, and 2.5 blocks to the finals versus Hakeem. I wouldn't call that embarrassed. I would just call that if Shaq was
they got
young.
swept.
Yeah,
That's all that matters to you, Brendan.
It's like the Bill
He
Russell,
didn't get
Will
embarrassed,
Chamberlain. Will Chamberlain
but
had his
Hakeem
numbers, and
definitely
he lost to
outperformed him.
Russell every time.
Hakeem
Shaq got
definitely
swept in that
outperformed him.
series. So,
Brendan,
yeah,
you're not
of course
allowed
he
to
got his
mention
numbers,
stats.
but when it came down to winning time, where were the plays?
No, I'm just saying he didn't embarrass him because those are pretty good stats.
What are you
He
talking
didn't
about? You
embarrass
said
him.
Hakeem was embarrassed every year. Got out of the first. It doesn't matter what stats he was putting up. That's what you said exactly.
I didn't say embarrassed. I said he couldn't make it out the first round.
You said
8
I said he
times
was raising
in
up. You're like,
career.
what rising? He was exiting first round. It doesn't matter.
But Penny Hardaway and Horace Grant, I guarantee they get out the first round. At least. Probably conference finals every year. But again, I don't like to do that. If he had
And Travis, you told me that Shaq dominated Hakeem in those finals. That's what you told me. Shaq dominated Hakeem in those finals.
No, I said he was getting. No, I said he was getting numbers on Hakeem, which he was.
We had it recorded. You said he dominated Hakeem Olajuwon, and I say, how can you dominate somebody that you outperform statistically and sweep them? You said Shaq dominated Hakeem in the '95 finals, which is another ridiculous take, and you had many of them.
You literally said that winning is the only thing that matters.
I didn't say about winning. I said to be in the top 10, you have to be a winner. You cannot have the lowest success of winning in the top 10 players. It's not possible. You have to be a winner to be in the top 10.
See,
I'm not
again,
talking about him
you
being
guys
the
are hearing
greatest player
this.
of all time.
So
I said you
the
have to be
stats,
a winner
context
to be in the
doesn't matter.
top 10. There's no
So-
context. You have to be
King
a
Road,
winner.
you heard this.
I don't
There's
I
no-
don't care
there's
what
no
happens
context.
to players who don't win. Like, I'm sorry. You have to be in the top 10, you have to be one of the greatest winners.
Okay.
That's how it goes. That's why no one has Hakeem in their top 10, because he's not one of the greatest winners.
So 2 Finals MVPs. Maybe that
Yes.
doesn't really matter.
That's all of them have that, Travis, with more winning. All of them have that, Travis.
There's
What
more
top 10
to ranking
do not-
players.
What top 10 player has not led their team to at least 2 titles?
Dude,
Name
there's more to ranking players
No,
than just
name
winning.
one player in the top 10 who did not lead their team to at least 2 titles.
I didn't say there was.
That's
Okay, then.
subjective,
So
though.
that doesn't make any sense to say that. Like, that puts them in the top 10, because it does
No,
not.
it makes
They all
consistent.
have
No,
that.
it makes perfect sense
They
because
all
you're
have
saying
that, Travis. That's what I'm
you're saying
They all
no,
have
you're
that.
saying yeah, and there's other things that go into it, not just winning. That's what you said is the end all be all to you.
As I said, to be a top 10 player, you have to be one of the greatest winners. Hakeem is not one of the greatest winners. And I have KD above Hakeem as well. He has more winning success in the playoffs than Hakeem Olajuwon.
Well, then let me ask you a question. How do you explain the last few years from Brooklyn on with KD, with the amount of talent?
So what, you have him over Hakeem, right? But
Yeah.
he jumped ship to the team that beat him.
I don't
same
care
year.
about that.
That's when he won the ring, right?
I
But
don't
the
care
context doesn't
about
matter.
that.
You don't
What
care. Okay.
context do I need? When he performed well. He performed
Okay, so
great.
he performed well. He was performing well in Oklahoma City.
Okay, that's another reason why he had more playoff success than Hakeem Olajuwon.
Yeah,
That's another
and
reason.
he won an MVP the same year LeBron beat him, and he had a great final series. But it doesn't matter, right? Because he lost. That's what you're saying.
First of all, KD did not win when they played in the finals.
That was 12.
KD did not win the MVP.
I'm sorry. When did KD win? He won it in
2014. They
Well,
lost to
Douglas,
San
you
Antonio.
really have to stop coming up here lying. People catches you all the time.
No, so I didn't lie. He had a great series, right? But that doesn't count. He had a great final series against LeBron in 2012. They lost,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But you said that their performance. You said their performance doesn't count because they lost. Nothing about that. Even
when
if he
did
was,
I say performance don't count? When I said
you
if you're not
literally
making
said that
out the
about
first
Hakeem.
round, if you're making out the first round and other players are making the finals and winning titles, that's going to be far superior.
And how are they doing that? You don't want to have that conversation.
What conversations to have because they didn't have better players? That's unfortunate. That's how sports work. That's why
But-
Tom Brady has 7 titles. Who cares about the team he had? He has 7 titles.
Yeah.
Bill
And again,
Russell has 11
like I said,
titles. Who cares
if you're
about his
saying
team?
that-
He has 11 titles.
If you're saying that, then there's nothing I could say because you don't want to talk about, like I said, Kobe winning his first ring, dropping 15 points per game in the finals. Like,
He has
I get
5
it.
titles.
Exactly. You're just
He
saying
has
that. It
7
doesn't matter.
finals appearances.
He got more finals MVPs than Hakeem.
He has 4 of those appearances
they have
with
the same.
Shaq.
They have the same. Like these
Kobe's
guys have
been to
more
3
winning.
straight finals.
They all have more. They have
I'm not making
more
this
winning.
up, Travis. I'm not
Like
making this up.
I just think that you value winning with more than
I
anyone else.
value top 10 players
And
who
you
are
don't
winners.
Top 10,
care.
you have to value
Top
winning,
10 players who
Travis.
are winners.
No, you don't have to
Everybody
value
in the
winning.
top 10
No,
is one, and they have
if
to
you value,
back
that's bullshit. If you value winning to the point where you don't care about the surrounding circumstances of it, in any case, then it's just a terrible
That's
take.
you and your
All right,
feelings.
so take
That's the
Jordan out the
difference.
top 10.
So
Take
wait.
Jordan out of your top 10 then.
Why?
I want to ask B-Lee a question.
Yeah.
Do you think Olajuwon got worse as a player when Ralph Sampson left?
No, he was a great NBA player. Like he's
Because
great.
he was making finals runs with a player like Ralph Sampson,
Yes,
and
he's
then goes
great.
to getting losing in the first round. Is it because Hakeem was worse or his team was worse?
I mean, everybody in the 90s had those teams, like one-star teams. Like he should have elevated them more.
Do you think, it's a yes or
He
no
should have
question. Do you
elevated
think
them more.
Hakeem
Everybody
made
was
it
playing
worse?
with one star.
Do you think Hakeem
Clyde
was a
Drexler
worse
was playing
player
with
or
one
his team
star on
got
his
worse?
team. Patrick Ewing, one star. Like these play, everybody had
asking-
one star.
I'm just asking the question. Do you think that Hakeem got worse as a player, or did his team get worse?
His team was the same.
No, Ralph Sampson left. That's when they started losing in the first round.
And that's unfortunate. He should have raised his game
So, do
more.
you think Hakeem was the worst player,
What?
or do you think
He should have
team
raised
was
his
worse?
game more if he didn't want to lose in the first round all
He
those
made a
times.
finals run when
6
he had
out of 8 years.
a still good
That's
Ralph Sampson.
unfortunate. That's unfortunate that he lost 6 out of 8 years in the
so
first
the
round.
team
That's
matters,
unfortunate. That's unfortunate.
Okay, so the team matters, right? You agree that
The
he was the
players
same
matter. He
player.
should have elevated them. Everyone was playing with the same hand in the 90s.
Okay, you agree that
Everyone was
the
playing with the
team.
same hand.
You
No one
agree
has
that
Shaq's
Hakeem
team.
can you agree that Hakeem was the same player, if not got better, but his team results were different because Ralph Sampson left and they didn't replace him with anybody, and he went out there with bums and lost in the first round. He went from making the
I
finals.
don't know what bumps he had with his team, but
third round.
if he was a
and then-
top 10 player, he
then
would have
to losing
elevated
in
him
the
more.
first round.
So name some of these players Hakeem played with then.
Sleepy Floyd.
He wasn't no bum. He started
McCray.
at point at Georgetown. I know
What?
who you're talking about.
Sleepy
Yeah.
Floyd was not a bum.
At that
Everybody
time,
know he was not a
Eric
bum.
Sleepy Floyd, no, he wasn't not a bum.
he was at the end of his career.
No, he wasn't. He came. What do you mean? He played in the. He the one that turned the ball over in the game versus North Carolina. Who you think you're talking to?
What? North Carolina? That's in college.
Yeah. When did he go? So when did he play with Hakeem?
Wait. Let me see.
See, that's what you see. When you make an inaccurate statement, you shouldn't have to backtrack.
Hold
If you make
on.
it's accurate. Hold on,
Anyway,
let me go
if he had
see.
Sleepy Floyd,
Hold on, let me go see.
Floyd
that
and
doesn't
Rodney
change the
McCray.
fact. Huh? Ron McCray.
Sleeping Floyd, Matt, Rodney McCray, Purvis Short, Allen Lavelle, Jim Peters. Like, I mean, that's
Robert Reed.
decent enough to
Jim
make to get the playoffs. It's not
Who
good
are
enough to
these
make a run.
Adam Lavelle. Who are these people? Alan Lavelle.
Mitch Wiggins.
Who are these people?
So y'all making excuses there. He should be top 10 because he didn't play with good players.
Yeah, we could do
Is
this.
that
We could
what
do
we're
this
saying?
all day.
You're just explaining those first round exits, though.
Okay,
You're
but
not exactly.
he just didn't have enough winning to be in the top 10.
I'm explaining the first round exit.
Yeah, okay, it's fine. That's unfortunate. But he does not have enough winning for his career to be a top 10 player.
I mean, you got
Okay,
Yeah, you
if
can.
that's if that's
Anybody can
if if
explain it.
if,
Anybody
you
can
want to
explain
hold
it, but
on
you
to
just
if you
don't.
want to just hold on to winning, then it's no
It's a
argument. You
career. It's a
hindsight
career.
For
No
the
one's
top
holding on to
10,
winning.
yes.
You cannot have the
For the top
worst
10, yes.
wins and to be a top. Like you could name 12 players who has his resume with more winning.
No, you can't.
yeah, but
that whole element he gets to playoff once.
again, that's just ring culture talk.
What
Yes.
is ring culture? I
if
said
you got
winning. How is
if
making
you
it to the
got
second round a ring? How is making it to the finals a ring? You have to win playoff games, be successful in
What?
the
Oh, so now
postseason.
it's playoff
It's
game
not
total.
just about rings, it's about being
now it's playoff
successful in the
games.
playoffs.
You have
Yeah.
4 trips to
I
the
keep
conference
saying he
Moving
gets
the
finals.
more than
goalposts
them.
there.
He has
Moving
the
the
You have 4
goalposts.
lowest
trips to the conference
wins
finals, 4 rings,
in the
3
top
bucks.
10. He has 76 wins. Everyone has more wins in the postseason in the top 10 than him. He has the lowest wins.
So what?
So who do you
He
have?
was not
So who do you
that
have better?
successful in the playoffs.
So who do
He's
you
not
have
that
better?
successful in the playoffs. He has
Who do you
8
have
first
better?
round exits and 2
So
missed playoffs.
so who do
One
you
What are you
so
talking about? Winning,
That's
I
all you're
say
saying.
so
winning
who do you have
matters
better?
only.
So who do you have better? Chauncey Billups or Allen Iverson?
Who had better what? Neither
Who's
one
the
of them
better
are top
player?
10 players.
Who's the better player?
Who cares? They're not top 10 players. We're
Oh,
talking
so
about
it only
the
applies
top
to
10
top 10.
player has to
It
be
doesn't
winners.
apply to the GOAT debate.
Simple as that.
No,
The
but
top 10
hold
players has to
on.
be
He
winners.
said
Nothing
he said
changed.
he said it doesn't apply to the GOAT debate. It doesn't apply for 11 through 20. It only applies to
We're talking
10
about
through
top 10.
10 through.
We're
It only
talking about
applies to
top
10
10.
through
I don't
3.
care what the hell you want to talk about. We're talking
Come on,
about
bro.
top 10 players. I don't care if
It
you want
only
to talk about
applies
the
to
top
that
50
criteria
and
because you
60
don't want
players.
Hakeem in
We're
there.
talking about top 10 players. Simple as
See,
that.
He
He
don't got
does
the
not have the
credentials
winning
to
to be in the
be
top
in.
Right.
10.
It don't apply to the
Tyson,
GOAT debate.
this is
It don't
where
apply to
I
11
don't
through
care
20. It just
what
applies to
debate you
top
want to
10. We
have.
got it.
You're
We
not
got it,
having
bro.
this debate. We're having a top 10
Tyson,
debate.
this is where
Simple as that.
I'm glad you're up here to listen, and not, like I'm glad that everyone else is hearing this. So at the beginning of the debate, you heard me lay out a bunch of stuff about why Hakeem did better than a lot of players, right? Top 10 players. Didn't compare to anyone else except top 5 through 10 consensus guys. Not Dr. J, none of this. Like I laid out a bunch of not just stats, but accomplishments, context, okay, deep research, right? Laid all of that out, right? And then the only thing that Brandon took away from that is blocks, right? And then he said it didn't matter what Hakeem did, his rings, whatever. It's not enough winning, right? It's just winning. It doesn't matter about like team. Nothing matters about team makeup, circumstances, performances in the playoffs. It doesn't matter because he didn't win. All of that is disregarded because of the bottom line, which is winning. Now, I'm not going to keep arguing with him. I'm just going to say you heard it here. Everyone heard it when it's back against the wall, when he can't refute the actual accomplishments or stats, doesn't want to go into the team impact, which I went to at length. You just resort to the first thing you learn during your ESPN pop-up book, which is ring count or W's. That's all.
Okay,
Yeah, this is bad.
Larry Bird.
This bad.
Larry
This nasty work,
Bird.
B.
Larry Bird has more regular season success, postseason success. Magic Johnson, regular season success, postseason success. Shaquille O'Neal, regular season success, postseason success. Kobe Bryant, regular season success, postseason success. Tim Duncan, same. Bill Russell, same. Wilt Chamberlain, same. What are you talking about?
But when Kobe Bryant didn't have an adequate team, he was a first
It
round exit.
doesn't matter. He has
So
more
what
That's the
regular
Hakeem?
season
point.
postseason success.
What do
He
you
has
mean?
more
Hakeem,
titles. He
you
led
just
his
sat
team to
there.
titles. What are you talking about?
Billy, he just complained about Hakeem not having a good team, and he just said the same thing about
They're
Kobe.
hypocrites.
It's
Exactly.
not about
That's
the
my
team.
point. We're not
The way
comparing.
that you
That's
are,
right.
God you have in the
I'm
top
not
10.
knocking Kobe. I'm not
They
knocking
just
Kobe.
did.
What I'm saying, bro.
That's
What I'm
you
saying
just
is,
did, bro.
if you don't have an
That's
adequate
it.
if you don't have an adequate
If you don't have an
adequate team,
adequate team, you're not in the top 10.
your regular season record is going to be trash, and you're going to play a
That's
number one
why
team in the
he's not in
playoffs,
the top
and you're going to
10.
And
lose.
that's why he's
That's
not
why
a
he's not in the
top
top
10 player.
10. Wow.
What
Like,
y'all do? What
So
y'all
Kobe
are
what are
wasn't
you
top 10
talking
because he
about?
lost in the first round.
Look, what y'all are doing, y'all are attaching to the
Kobe was worse in those seasons.
Listen, what y'all are doing, y'all taking the stats, y'all taking the accolades, including the 2 rings, and y'all dismissing the rest of the 19-year career.
What?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
What?
You're
Lost
taking
in
2
the
years,
first
he's
round
saying.
No,
4 straight years in a
that's
row.
not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm doing.
No,
That's
one
not
boy.
what we're doing.
Top
One boy,
10
listen
worthy
real quick.
outside of those 2 rings. That
Respectfully,
defensive,
brother.
the blocks, That's cool. You can have that. I think with the reason why we're even have this, I think with the reason even for this debate is because Hakeem played in the 90s. And there's a little bit of nostalgia attached to it.
Nope.
But the
we're
winning
not
has
air
to play
texting,
a
bro.
big
That's
role.
ridiculous, Dick.
We can say
We
the
not.
same thing
Let
about
him
Michael
talk.
Jordan. Michael Jordan has a case for the top 10.
What?
What?
Jordan
A
has a
case?
case for the top 10. So you know what I'm saying? Hakeem
Got a
doesn't.
case for the GOAT.
He don't have. Hold on.
Well, I mentioned Michael
He's-
Jordan, who
he-
has the best resume of all time, arguably.
Yeah, he got a case for the GOAT.
So he has a case to be in the top. Jordan is in everybody's top 10. Hakeem isn't because he doesn't have the winning. When you have the talent, all of that, none of that matters to where your ranking's going to be. Because if that's the case, Kobe should be top 5 if we talking talent and potential. That's what y'all are basing the conversation off. But the winning has to come
we're
along
not.
with it.
No, we're not. We
Hey,
basing
hold
it
up,
off
You're
what he
having a
did,
yes,
bro.
you
We're
are.
not
You're
basing
having
it
a
off of
talent
consistency.
because you're
Hold up,
talking
guys.
about the
Hold up,
teammates.
guys. Hey, y'all, hold
Go
up. Tyson, how
Yes,
do
sir.
Hakeem regular season trumps Larry Bird's 3 MVPs?
How does Hakeem regular season trump his?
Yeah,
It
Regular
yeah,
doesn't
his
season.
success
necessarily
trumps
trump his.
Larry Bird's 3 MVPs. How did what he done in the regular season trumps Larry Bird's 3 MVPs?
It doesn't. We're
Okay,
not taking
okay,
it
all
away
right,
from
all
Larry
right,
Bird.
all right,
Wait.
okay. Oh, hold up. Let me finish. How does Hakeem regular season trumps Magic Johnson 3 MVPs?
They don't.
Okay,
I didn't say it. I didn't say it
so
trumped his 3
okay,
MVPs.
all right. So in the regular season and in the postseason, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson was superior than Hakeem Olajuwon. But you stated that Hakeem
Based
is
off
better than both of
MVPs.
them. You
Hold on.
you
BD.
said
I got what you're
Hakeem is
saying.
better than both of them. How
I
can
got what you,
okay? So
okay.
what has he done in the regular season to trump 3 MVPs for both of them?
Okay, so when you're talking about MVPs, we're not taking away from that from Larry Bird's career or Magic Johnson's career. I'm
Thank
talking
you.
about what Hakeem was doing as a two-way player. If the voters favored Larry Bird and Magic Johnson in those careers because of regular season records and all those things that come into play when we're talking about an MVP, that's fine. We're not taking away. Um, Bird and Magic are top 10 players. We all agree with that. But we're not going to take out of context who they played with. We're not going to take out of context that Norm Nixon was averaging 20 in the playoffs. James Worthy was averaging, or not James Worthy, Wilkes was averaging 20 in the playoffs, and Kareem was averaging 20 in the playoffs. We're not taking away and to say that Hakeem didn't win
Okay.
because he didn't have that type of talent on his team.
How
We're
does
not
his
going to do that.
teammates make Hakeem better than Larry Bird and Magic Johnson in the regular season
What's that?
for their career? How is
Because
Hakeem's
in this,
regular season career better than theirs?
if you have those players better, that's fine. But to say that he didn't win is the reason why and not bring up teammates is a problem, brother.
All right, I'm gonna ask it again. How does Hakeem Olajuwon regular season trumps Larry Bird and Magic Johnson regular season career?
Okay,
How
so
can you
you're
make
talking
a
about
case that their
let's say
regular
Larry
season is
Bird
better?
What he
specifically.
did,
Billy.
because what he did as a
Hold on,
because
Tyson.
what he asked me the
Yeah,
question, T.
let me finish. Let me finish. I want to hear it.
No, you
Right,
don't.
because what he did as a two-way player and at the center position, he dominated his opponents with scoring, defense, all the above those things you name, and affected his team's defense at a higher rate than Magic and Bird, in my opinion, especially on the defensive end. Now you can say Magic is the better offensive player if you want to say that, but if you want to say two-way, I think Hakeem is a better overall player than Magic.
So okay, so your argument is that he's a better two-way player. That's why he's better than Magic and Bird.
Yes, that's my argument.
Okay, so do you think Kawhi Leonard is better than Magic Johnson?
No,
Okay, all right. Let's move on because you don't believe the words
See,
that's coming out your
Do
mouth.
you see what he
All
just
right.
did there?
I do.
You don't believe the
You
words
talking
that's
about a
coming out
player
your mouth. You
that
don't believe
career
a
has been
two-way
marred by
player is
injury. That's
better
not a
than
fair
a one-way
comparison.
player.
He
You don't
doesn't
believe
have
that.
the
You
he
don't believe
doesn't
that.
have the years of consistency that
You
Hakeem
don't
has. That's
believe
why.
that. You don't believe that.
No, because you're making a false argument.
Hakeem doesn't have the level of consistency to compete with those two players.
He did.
What are
He
you
did it
talking
several
about?
years
He
in a row.
never did.
Kawhi has not.
But,
He never
but
did.
he used Kawhi because a healthy Kawhi is great on both ends.
But he wasn't healthy.
Dude, Brandon,
Hakeem
you
was.
realize
I
Hakeem
just
has a
said
better
when he was
prime
healthy.
than has more prime years than Magic and Larry Bird, right?
Right. What are we talking about?
That's true. See,
What are you talking
that's
about?
the thing.
You realize that
How
Larry
many,
Bird,
how
the
many
only
prime
literally
years
the
do Hakeem
That's a
have?
horrible
the
comparison. You
How
only
many
thing that
prime
comparing a
Larry
years do
Bird
player that
has
Hakeem
is
has a
have?
the
Travis, how
you
many
only
prime years do
comparing a
Hakeem
player
have?
that has a 3-year prime,
How
pretty
many,
only
much
how
thing
many,
4-year
how many
prime.
prime years do Hakeem have, Travis?
Hakeem has approximately 10 prime years.
How many prime
And
years do Matty Johnson have?
I would say Magic Johnson has 7 prime years.
Okay. How many
I
Larry
don't know
prime
Bird
about
But
was
years?
seven.
when
I
he
would have to
How
look
was
many
that up.
prime
Larry
years
Bird was
do Larry Bird
But how many
have?
does
Larry
Kawhi have?
Bird was
B-Lee?
Larry
Larry Bird
Bird.
was
Huh?
Wait,
6.
wait, wait. How
Six
many
have
does
six.
Kawhi have, B-Lee?
So you're saying that
No,
Magic
What's
answer.
has
How
wrong?
many does Kawhi have?
Travis? I mean, Tyson shut the quiet.
No, but
Travis.
you're not answering the question. You try to make a comparison. It's not.
All right, Travis. You're saying that
Whoa, you just kicked my guy out because he was exposing you?
wow.
he was exposed. He would shut the hell up. All right,
Dude, you just
Travis.
moving the goalpost.
You're saying that Matty Johnson has 7 prime years and Larry Bird
Look
has
it up,
6
man.
prime years.
What are you going to say?
Really?
Is Finals MVP? He was
Really?
prime and as a rookie? No.
Really? Is that what you're saying? So your whole argument is to trash Larry Bird and Matty Johnson today. You have said the most ridiculous things about Magic and
You
Larry
realize
today
Larry Bird,
that
the only
I
thing he
have
has over
never
Hakeem,
seen this.
he
I have
doesn't have
never
him
heard this
statistically.
before.
He has literally 2 MVPs over Hakeem Olajuwon. They have the same Finals MVPs, no DPOY. He blows Larry Bird away in NBA selections, especially all defensive selections. He was more impactful on both ends of the floor, arguably. Look it up.
So
Look at the
why
numbers.
did Hakeem
With the worst
Olajuwon
team.
dominate a decade like Magic and Bird did? If he was so great a two-way player,
What he did, as far
he
as what
did.
matters. You're talking about,
He
again,
did
you're
for
just going
2
back to
years.
the rings.
2 years in a decade.
2
It's
years.
2 years in a decade, Travis.
Winning
There's
a
a
decade.
whole, there's
They
a
had the
whole
best
Goes
team.
back to ring
80% that you're
culture,
not
Travis.
accounting for.
They had the
It goes
best
back to
teams.
ring culture.
So
You're going
so
exactly. You're just
what?
going back to ring culture.
Even when Jordan was losing, Hakeem wasn't winning. Even when Isaiah was losing, Hakeem wasn't winning.
Hey,
Even when
he came
Barkley
to
was
the
losing,
86
Hakeem
finals,
wasn't winning.
one boy.
He went to 3 finals in a
Who went to
19-year
6
career.
finals?
Outside
Jordan?
of those
Yes, Jordan
2
went to
rings,
6
he
finals.
doesn't have
No, I
the
said it came into the
success
86
to
finals.
back
You
the
said when Jordan
numbers.
wasn't winning.
Again, this is, guys, I think we've, like, everyone in the chat knows, like, this is the
Everyone in
differentiating
chat
point.
knows Magic and Bird is better than
They know.
Hakeem
So again,
Olajuwon.
B. Lee is just saying, he's just saying that that Larry Bird and Magic Johnson are better because of the winning. It doesn't matter that they were outclassed statistically. It doesn't matter Hakeem is a better playoff performer than both of them by the numbers. I already brought that out. It doesn't matter if they had top 5 all-time rosters from the drop. That doesn't matter. All that matters is just the winning. You heard it here.
Okay, Bailey, I got one quick question because I got one quick question.
All right, go ahead.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar missed the playoffs of back-to-back years in the 70s. This last year was the first year with the Lakers. How much do you hold that against him?
How much do I hold it against him that he missed
Missing
the playoffs?
the playoff back-to-back years in the 70s.
No, I don't hold that against him because his career
Then why do
was
you hold
great.
4 straight and first-round exits when he was in the playoffs against the Kings?
You say why what?
Why do you hold the 4 straight first-round exits when the King at least made the playoffs those years
No,
against the King?
I said Hakeem had 8 first round exits. That's what
Okay,
I
but you
said.
said 4 straight though. But you say you
No,
don't
I didn't say
hold 2
I didn't say
back-to-back missing.
four straight. I said he had 8 first round exits in his career. I never said 4 straight.
Okay, yeah, you did still have a few more at the later end of his career, but that period, again, that period y'all said, he missed 4 straight. Now, also, there were first round exits for Kareem surrounding those 2 missed playoff years. He
Okay.
actually, I think 4 out of 5 years, he
It's
didn't win.
definitely not 8. It's
9
definitely not
years.
8.
Okay,
And
but
he had
4
a
out of
lot
5
more.
years,
He was better
playoff
in the
round.
regular season than Hakeem and better in the postseason than Hakeem. It's not an argument. So
But you're
Hakeem's a
also
top 10
talking. Okay,
player.
you're also talking
Hakeem's a
about.
top 10 player.
Okay, but
I
you're
mean,
talking
Kareem a
about.
top 10 player. I meant Kareem's a top 10
No,
player.
of course, of course he is. But I
Yeah.
asked do you hold that those 2 years where you missed the playoffs entirely against him? You said not at all. So I think it's still a little bit hypocritical to then hold those 8 or other 4 straight years and 5 against the King. As we know, the
He
years where
didn't have 8 first round exits straight. He just have
Okay,
8
but some
total.
of those are later in Kareem's career where he was not. I mean, Hakeem's career where he's not even like a top player. Like those are what
I
Steve
mean,
Franks
he
is.
should have quit before. He should have quit before. Now it's on his resume.
So he should have just retired. What you
He
saying?
should have
So
quit
now,
before. It's on
so
his
now,
resume.
are you going to hold
Yeah, but
LeBron's first round exits against him? It's on his resume.
I
yeah, but
mean, you
no,
can,
that
but
doesn't have nothing to do
LeBron
with it.
has the most playoff wins of all time, the most
Okay,
series
but
wins of all
okay,
time, the most conference
but
titles
you
of
have
all
brought
time.
it into
One with
effect
3 different
that that's
teams
a
with finals
negative losing
MVPs.
the first round,
LeBron
losing in the
winning
first round.
resume is impeccable.
So you're going to
So
the rest of
so
his
you can
resume.
hold that
See, that's
against
what I'm
LeBron
saying.
if you
I'm
want,
only going.
but his
So
winning is
yeah,
impeccable. The
only
highest
his
plus-minus
resume
in
matters then.
playoff
Okay.
history is
See, the
impeccable.
problem is, Billy, you brought up the negative in
Impeccable,
Kareem's
sure.
career, Akeem's career, and then you put the negative point about Akeem against the MVPs of Bird and Magic. That's not fair because then Akeem has an MVP and he has two
He
D
has
points.
one.
Why
Yes, he
don't
has
you
one.
hold on?
Yes, he
Why
has
didn't you
one.
bring up the two D points and the MVP to compare that against the three MVP?
Yes, he has one. I'm not debating. He doesn't. He has one. Yeah, he has one. Magic
And then
has
the two
3.
D points,
Larry
right?
Bird
The
has
two
3.
D points. Oh, D points. Do D points not matter?
The funds are
Defensive.
insufficient.
You don't care about Rudy Gobert's defensive player of the year. You don't
I
care about
never
Dwight
said
Howard.
that. I
So
actually
I don't
never said
really
that.
care
The
about
four
defensive
D.
player of the
I
years
said the
either.
four D
No one
points
cares about him, so I
automatically
don't care about
put
him.
Rudy in the
I don't care
Hall of
about him
Fame.
either. Just like you don't care
I
about him,
never
so I
said
don't
You
that.
bring
don't
him
care
up.
about anything.
You can't attribute
I
a
don't
statement
bring
that
him
I
up either
didn't
because
make.
you don't care about him. Both of us don't
No,
care about him.
So King Roy, I
literally,
want you
I
to.
said the four D
Does
points
he?
is an
Wait.
automatic check to the Hall of Fame for rookie.
So
So
King
Does
Roy,
he
to
care?
tell me I don't
Does
I
he?
care
want to
about
point
He's
this
not a
out.
top 10 player because of it.
Does he?
So
Does he care about
so
points? Who has more points?
I want to point this.
so
I want to point this out. Tyson.
so
This is
so
before because we're
let's
already
go
at the
ahead
goddamn.
and get Lamont in here because he just
We don't
popped up.
want. I'm already at the 2 hour mark here. I want to point this out. Like
You
at
don't
the
want
beginning,
Lamont.
and then everyone was saying I was knocking players. I pointed out at the beginning. I didn't point out anything negative about any of their players. I pointed out why Hakeem's resume, and I gave very specific examples as to why, is among the best compared to the consensus top 10 guys. I never knocked them. I didn't do anything what you brought up, which was, I mean, why deserve context, all this stuff. I gave very specific examples, none of which you've
You
addressed.
gave the same example over and over again about blocks. No one cares.
No one cares. That's it. Okay. So you
No
don't
one cares
care.
about blocks
You
over
don't
and over
know.
again. We know
You have
he
an
has the
argument.
most
It's
regular
just winning,
season
losing.
blocks.
That's it.
We know that he has a nice spin around move. We know this.
Oh God!
You guys are hearing this,
We
right?
know this.
When you're
We
on the
know
floor,
you've
when
been
you're
hearing
losing the
that for
debate,
10 straight
you
people.
start insulting the player. That's Brandon B. Lee style, right there.
Yes,
Go ahead.
yes. We don't want to keep hearing that over and over again. We don't want to keep hearing
Queen of
that.
straw man and the queen king of false equivalence. For real.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Lamont. Let me go ahead and hear your take. Let
Just
me
admit defeat.
hear what Lamont has to say.
Oh, here we go.
Man, it's funny. It's funny because a lot of the same people was the same people that was killing T-Mac.
Thank God.
Breaking up.
Yeah.
Fix your
This Mark
mic.
knows where you're coming, Cap. We're getting lucky?
Oh yeah, Lamont, you might
Yeah,
mess up.
better.
It's Mike Chop. Basically, he was saying it's the same people.
Hold on, is that
killing
better?
him.
Yeah, it's better.
Oh,
No.
yeah.
Okay, no, I was just saying it was just funny hearing people make 1,000,001 excuses for Hakeem with these endless first round playoff losses, but that's the same argument they used to put T-Mac to say why we couldn't put T-Mac on the same tier as Kobe. You know, because you could literally make the same argument for T-Mac. His teammates, his team, one of his key teammates always staying injured, whether it was Grant Hill or Yao Ming. It was just always a ton of issues, but there was none of that context applied there. But I just think when it comes to the top 10, I mean, why can't you use winning as the separator? I mean, that's what it ultimately comes down to, and I think that's what B. Lee's been trying to explain this whole time. When it comes down to the top 10, your criteria has to get more and more petty. The criteria that you use to formulate your top 50 cannot be the same criteria that you use to formulate your top 10. Because just like he said, if leading your team in 2 championships, Isaiah Thomas did that, but nobody even talks about him being close to the top 10. Right? And you could, I mean, if you want to argue that all day, he said Hakeem doesn't have enough winning. He did not say Hakeem did not win at all. Y'all are acting as if he said Hakeem did not win. Yeah, he just don't have enough. And y'all making excuses. Y'all don't even know the real excuses because y'all don't know the context to his teams. Y'all don't know why. Because if you use context, why don't y'all put some of that context on him, on how he faltered, and on how he suffered with the team, on how he faked injuries? What about the things that he did himself that cost his team in the playoffs? But y'all don't use none of that context. Y'all making it seem like he played immaculate every time, and they lost only because his teams were trash. When y'all don't even remember the context to none of those playoff series. So much so that you got people like King Rowe telling us that Sleepy Floyd was trash when we know he was borderline all-star caliber player.
Stop. I didn't say Sleepy
No,
Floyd was trash.
I didn't say
no,
Sleepy Floyd was
that was
trash. I was
Tyson.
naming the
That was
players on the
Tyson.
team.
Hold on, King
That
Rowe.
was
You said
Tyson.
his teammates were bums.
Yeah, he
I
did
did
And
say
not.
that.
Sleepy Floyd
That
is
was
not a
not my
bum.
argument, Lamont.
Yeah, hold on, King Rowe. You need to start rewinding. You literally said his teammates were bums, and then when Juan Boy said Sleepy Floyd is a bum, then you had to backtrack.
Lamont,
Because
you're mistaking me for
so
Tyson. You're
what we're
mistaking me
saying
for
in general
Tyson.
here. Hold on 1 second, King Rowe, because I'm not going to be here for long. What I'm saying is stop using the teammate aspect because y'all don't know why his teams were trash in the regular season. Y'all don't know why they missed the playoffs in certain years. Y'all don't know why they were losing in the first round. Y'all don't even remember those playoff series. So I'm probably the only person that's actually went through those series one by one that actually knows. Y'all were just saying his team was trash because you have no other explanation to explain why his team was losing in the first round. Just say he faltered. It was on him. Just like we give the number one option the credit when they win, we give them all that credit when they lose as well. You don't run around blaming role players. Hakeem did not get it done enough. And when B. Lee says winning, he's not always just talking about winning a championship. It can also mean just deep playoff runs. He's not even doing that. So again, Hakeem's just not top 10. This is why he's not consistently on most people's top 10 list, unless you just an avid 90s fan and you just glaze 90s basketball. But he is truly don't have a top 10 resume, unless you're really forcing it like King Rowe trying to say Hakeem is better than Tim Duncan, which sounds
How would you know
absolutely
about resumes, though,
bananas.
Lamont? Yours is the most vague bullshit of all time. Plus, you said you
I
don't
know, but
critique
ultimately,
people's resumes.
but my top 10 don't have. You can say it's vague because I don't think it's vague.
It's super vague.
I know,
Plus, you said you
It's
have
vague.
coach of every position.
hold on. How is my top 10 vague, Tperfect? But you said you agreed with my top 5, almost player for player.
There's consensus players
So
on
at the
everyone's
end of the
list.
day, how can my top 10 be vague if you agree with the top 5?
It's no, I didn't say your top 10. I said your
You just
criteria
be
is super
arguing
vague.
to argue.
No, you said you have the
I'm
goats
talking
at every
about the
position at a
stupidity
perfect
logic
goat.
where you trying to say Magic. You trying to say Hakeem is better than Magic. Hakeem is better than Bird. That is not true. He's not better than Shaq. He's not better than Duncan. He does not have better careers than these guys. He is fringe top 10 at best, but most people have him outside the top 10. And y'all acting like this is brand new all of a sudden. He is
No,
not
you're just
top 10.
saying.
He did not have a
You're just
top
saying
10
that,
career.
like, we all know that you don't want to pull up and
This
have
is
an
not a
actual
most
debate.
talented of all time.
No one's talking about
Perfect, we'll give it
talent.
to you just like this. If it was the most talented of all time, Hakeem
See,
might
you're
be
moving
in.
goalposts.
This is
You
not
obviously
talent.
missed this entire debate. You just talking out of your ass. No one's talking about talent. We're talking
All
about
right, but
entire
Perfect.
career
First of all, I wasn't even
resumes.
talking to you. I was just talking to the people like King Rowe.
Yeah. And King
We're
Rowe's
talking
right. You're
about
wrong.
Something that I
production, though,
said
not
hit
talent.
home.
Production and talent is two different
Maybe you
things.
just
Who
wrong
mentioned
about something.
talent one time? Nobody.
Hold on. The only thing that puts Hakeem Olajuwon in the top 10, if you're not using winning, is his talent.
That's ridiculous. And again, I
Okay, so he don't have enough accolades, to put him in the top 10.
Yeah, he does. 100% he does.
Okay,
And I
I know.
outlined that.
Only to a
You must have
retard.
not got the show. I outlined it
Only
specifically.
to an absolute retard.
Yeah, you're a moron. Get the fuck out of here, dude.
You came up for T-Mac.
See, this is the Lamont that shows up when everything's been said. He won't actually pull up to an actual debate. He tries to back out of it just because he knows that he'll come up and say something. He'll be like, "Oh, I'm going to dip out." He'll like take the.
I'm not leaving. I'm right
That's
here.
it. No, you don't want it. Yeah, you're pulling up now, dude. Like I challenge you to a Kobe top 10 debate. You wanted to twist it and to
What do you mean a
debate my
Kobe top 10
criteria
debate?
like a pussy. That's it.
What do you mean a Kobe top 10 debate? What does that mean? I don't debate people's top 10. I've said this for years. I debate criteria.
You guys
So
just heard
debate, put your criteria up for
You're
debate.
doing it right
and
now.
we'll talk
Debating
about how
people's top
9-6
10.
You're doing it right now. You're attacking
Stop
everyone's
crying
criteria.
about what other people rank players.
Yeah,
Not
stop crying about
everybody has
where
Hakeem in the
we're
top
ranking
10.
team. You're the fucking
Yeah,
retard.
no, hold on.
You're debating
Everybody on
where
the
I'm
panel.
ranking a team.
Is Hakeem Olajuwon consensus top 10?
Trevor
No.
Who cares about?
No.
Yes, he's on a lot of top 10 lists.
The reason why he's not consistent top 10 is because he doesn't have the winning. To some idiots like you might throw him in there because you love the 90s.
So you agree with us? He's arguable top 10 because you said French.
I said at best. I just said it, King Ro. At best, he is fringe top 10 if you overlook the winning. But if you are incorporating winning, there is no way you throw Hakeem in there.
Okay, who are your consistent top 10?
So I just told you the only way you can put him in. And the only way you can put him in is to do what Tperfect did, is to pretend as if winning doesn't matter for your top 10. You have to pretend.
So
this is silly. It's silly to act like winning doesn't matter when it comes to your top 10. It is absolutely silly.
He has back-to-back titles under the hardest conditions. He has 3 finals appearances.
Under the hardest conditions, Jordan was retired. Are you retarded?
You're a fucking idiot, dude. Using Michael Jordan as your only barometer.
Jordan was gone. That's not the hardest
basketball coach. I thought you knew the game.
A rookie Shaq is not the hardest condition. The 90s basketball is not the hardest condition.
Rookie Shaq, he came in 92.
90s basketball? Come on, man. Hardest conditions. Stop lying.
Right there. You just now it's about eras. See?
Hold on.
This is the fucking LeBron throater that says he's unbiased.
So hold on. You're saying he won under the hardest conditions, but you haven't weighed any of the other players' championships to measure up how their championships if they won them in the hardest conditions.
The team has a consensus.
If winning in the hardest conditions matter, then Dirk would be top 10. Dirk won it in the hardest conditions.
Yeah, he won one ring in the hardest conditions.
So where's he in your top 10? So where's he in your top 10?
His resume doesn't stack up like to Hakeem's at all.
So not even close to a D boy.
Nope.
Yeah. He couldn't get a D boy in Europe. Dirk couldn't get a D boy in Europe.
The only way you put a King top 10 is if you act like winning don't matter.
No one said he doesn't matter.
Dirk
is just not the NLBL like SU casuals.
You said it's context. It's context to why he didn't win.
But he doesn't use context for anybody else.
Sure we do. 100%.
He used context to why people won. There's context to why Bird won, why Magic won, why Shaq won, why Kobe won, why Bill Russell won.
He hasn't watched that much basketball to know that much context.
What are you talking about?
You see what happened there, King Rowe?
Context to Kawhi Leonard winning.
Okay, why did Hakeem Olajuwon miss the playoffs 5 times in a row?
See, Tyson.
He didn't miss the playoffs 5 times in a row. See, that's a lie. His first round exits, and he missed the playoffs 1 of those 5 years.
Bro, so he missed the playoffs. No, he lost in the first round 5 times in a row.
Okay, and I asked
and then he missed the playoffs 1 year. Why did that happen?
Was it 5 times in a row?
Anybody give me context to that?
Nope.
They don't
know. They don't remember any of those series.
You're an idiot.
I said his supporting cast is not good enough to make deep playoff runs.
Okay, so what about when Hakeem Olajuwon dropped 2 points in the fourth quarter of one of those crucial games? Does that not have any context?
What about when anybody dropped 2 points in the fourth quarter in playoff games?
Oh, it's on his teammates. Oh, it's his teammates.
So you see, Tyson, this is what guys like Rowe are not.
Y'all are just going off the fact that nobody remembers those games.
No,
I mean,
they ignore everything, right?
You can't tell me about any one of those playoff series yet we're ignoring the context. You don't remember any of those games that he lost in the first round.
So are you ranking players
as if they lost those series because of his teammates?
Y'all don't know.
See, you're making arguments that no one's making.
Y'all don't know. But you brought the context up.
Y'all don't know shit outside of 1994 and 95. Just say that.
One boy, you don't know shit outside.
You don't know shit about basketball. You don't have a top 10. You only know about Michael Jordan and LeBron's dick.
I don't care. I know about basketball.
No, you don't.
Hold on.
Like I told you.
No, you don't.
Didn't he just say if you throw at homonyms, you're losing?
No, you don't. You don't know anything. You admitted you don't have a criteria. You don't have a ranking system or anything. You even texted me saying that you only have beef with Jordan, no other player, and that you only use your criteria against him. Your word means nothing. You're a fucking casual. That's all you only talk about with Jordan.
Everybody's a casual.
I have context as to why.
Travis, you ain't your feelings today.
Hey,
that takes
your criteria, Lamar. He should be top 10.
Let me get my point off. Like I said, you study for debates. Anything coming out of your mouth, you're not saying, "Oh, I saw this," "Oh, I saw that." You are a casual more than anything.
Why didn't we have to see it?
I let you talk.
We watched a ton of basketball.
I let you disrespect me by calling me a throater and a bitch ass yesterday. Because you got in your feelings about me talking basketball that I sit down and that I watch. I post everything I watch. Ask B. Lee. I post shit that I watch that I could go on YouTube and watch right now and make a breakdown. Your dumb ass won't go and watch a 2005 series with Tracy McGrady holding Dirk to 33.3% when he was guarding them. And then won't give context. Oh, he lost in the first round. I lose in the first round too if I was guarding one of the best scorers all time who had the size advantage and the weight advantage against me too.
I seen Matt Barnes do the same thing.
No, I ain't talking to you, bro. Let me talk to Travis. Go on to YouTube and watch some of this basketball. Then you maybe you'll have some better takes. Because everything you come from come from a fucking internet, and it's not the actual game of what happens on the court.
You have no point, just as usual. No points at all. You have this random shit that you start spouting. It had nothing to do with what we're talking about at all.
You don't know basketball outside of debates.
Did you hear yesterday, King Rowe? King Rowe, did you hear? All she knows is anti-Michael Jordan.
You argue with niggas that watch basketball.
No, you don't watch basketball? Bullshit.
Yes, I do.
You don't.
Yes, I do. I'm online. I'm online watching the game with a Johnny. Every finals game.
Then post something else that's not just, oh, I hate Michael Jordan. That's all you fucking post, dude. Nigga, how am I supposed to take you seriously?
I just told your stupid ass, go look on
random McGrady fact
finals games. I was there. I'm on Christmas game. I watched every game on live when y'all had the 12-hour stream on Christmas. What are you talking about?
So if you know all this basketball, how come you have such bad takes?
I'm talking me and B. Lee was snatching your soul about John Stockton. You and her. Don't tell me I don't know basketball.
You don't know basketball, dude. And if you do, then you're just.
You don't know basketball.
If you're if you know basketball, you can debate, dude. You just don't know shit.
You're a Scap Attack clone. Fucking Kobe Jocker.
Scap it on you too.
Disrespectful.
Dude, so bro, you were here yesterday, right? Bro, you were here yesterday on Friday night.
A little bit too, but
you weren't here.
You act like a fucking.
So I just want to point out, guys, we're talking about Friday Night Lights. Last night, during a Johnny Friday Night Explosion, right?
All right, so
we're talking. We're celebrating the 200 whatever, or 100 shot show, right? We're talking about nothing that has to do with Michael Jordan or anything. We're talking. I think it was about something, nothing negative about any player. We were talking some basketball. I forget exactly what. Run it. Randomly, Rose says, "Let me get my shit off." Okay, what do you got? What do you got? Not you, Rose. Sorry. One boy says, "Let me get my shit off." What is that? He says, Mike almost blew a 3-0 lead to the Sonics out of nowhere.
What about it with Mike? No one
only Mike
talking about Mike, and they have to bring up Mike to make a play. This is the same one boy who told me defense.
One boy, I asked you
when I brought
exactly. One boy, I asked you, and I asked One Boy months ago. I have the fucking text if you want. I said, One Boy, I respect you as a basketball mind. I don't mind talking to you. I think you contribute a lot to Facebook and the show. Great. Obviously, you've been around. You've been watching a lot of basketball. Great. And I'm like, why do you only have this vitriol? Why do you only post about Mike, his failures, whatever? Do you have a top 10? You're like, no, I don't really have any ranking. I'm like, why do you hate Mike? You're like, well, I only apply this hate and these things that I say to Michael Jordan. I really can't apply them to any other player. I only hate Mike. Verbatim. Okay? So you're wording me jack shit.
Do you want to know why? Do y'all want to know why?
That was a private conversation, Travis. You're snitching right now, bro. The streets don't appreciate this.
Can I tell y'all why?
The streets
tell us what.
You get your D-Lo on right now.
The reason why I have no love for Jordan, majority of his fans, because the first thing we get to do about when you talking basketball, y'all go left and talk about shit that ain't got nothing to do with basketball. Jordan fans this week going into my personal shit to see what's going on, they send King John death messages. What are you talking about? I got two dudes wanting to fight me, sending me messages, wanting to fight about Michael Jordan. I got and What do you mean? They're the most.
So
Y'all
wait a minute.
they're
See, this is the
disrespectful.
problem.
They don't know basketball. When you put on footage to see if his game was like they say it was, you see otherwise. And yeah, if I'm thinking about talent and all of that, no, he is not the greatest player that I have seen. I have seen players better than Jordan because I watch film. I'm not looking at Jordan as the best player that I have seen because I watch basketball.
Okay. So in other words, he hates Jordan and everybody in the 90s because zesty fans come on Facebook and in his box. And instead of just
Y'all
being
do it on
objective,
here.
who?
You
I'm not even a
call
Jordan
dudes
fan. I told
bronzexuals.
you. I
One thing I never do.
all of them.
Y'all call dudes bronzexuals, faggots, and all of that, and I
Okay,
keep it
okay.
basketball.
And
We're
it
not
I don't
even
do
shows.
talking
none of that
And
shit
basketball
it
to
no
talk
more, bro.
shows.
What are we
basketball.
But
doing?
y'all
That
What are
do
we
it
comes from
doing?
bad.
Jordan fans.
Y'all
What are we
call
doing?
it Jeffrey. It's y'all do it bad.
No, stop making an
Okay,
excuse for
why
them.
does that
Stop
take?
making an
Hold on,
excuse
hold
for
on,
them.
hold on.
Bro,
But
when do I get
my
disrespectful when we talking basketball? Never. I don't be talking about your mother and all of that. I only
I just
address the
want to
people
know.
that go that route to talk basketball because we are grown men. We can't
got
have a
it.
conversation without y'all getting in your feelings about basketball that y'all do not watch.
Let me
Okay,
ask
B
you a
Lee
so
question,
kicked me.
homeboy.
B Lee kicked me in the backstage for talking basketball, and y'all up here talking
I'll
about
put you
feelings
in
and
the
whatnot.
that,
And
backstage
it's
that's
because
because
serious
I was on the
problem.
I was
stage.
talking to
We asked
Travis
him
and you
why is
wouldn't
he
be
calling
quiet.
Jordan every chance he gets.
I
And
Simple
I
as
wasn't
just
that.
being
told
You
him y'all
wasted
wasn't
disrespectful.
gonna
turn.
y'all
I
wasn't
didn't
gonna
call
You
put
wasted
nobody
him
no
on.
turn.
They
name.
do it. They've been doing it to LeBron for over 20 years. I could get a good 2 years in. I don't care about how you feel about how I feel about players. I don't care.
You think KD don't
Nothing
do
you
that
gonna
to you?
say could tell me when I look at the stats and see Jordan go 2 for 23, 2 for 22 in the
It
quarter, and then I
happened.
watch the game. There ain't shit you could tell me about him being the GOAT.
But what when he goes 17 for
Even
25?
when he won his last ring, y'all don't understand this shit. That man shot 30 for more than half of his team shots.
Yeah.
Everybody that scored on the Bulls shot better than 50%. He missed 20 shots out of 67
Uh-huh.
and only had one assist.
So you
Pass the
just count
ball.
you
Can
That's
I
count
not
can
the
I
that.
greatest basketball player to me
can
at
I
all.
answer
And they only
can
won by 1 point.
can I can I answer
He wasn't
FYF real
being
quick?
guarded by any all NBA defender. He
Can I
wasn't.
say
He was no.
Because
You can't say
answer
shit because
FYF
oh
because
it's
he's
too
gonna
late,
I
bro.
change my
caught your
mind.
smoke, Tyson.
Huh?
He said what you said, he said I said it.
Oh yeah, he did. But I want to answer real quick about the whole Tracy McGrady thing. We all agreed that Tracy McGrady was a great player. We used those getting knocked out in the first round to say he would win championships. Nobody's coming up here saying that Hakeem would have won more championships if he did this and did that. All we saying was he was a great player, and we going by what he did, not by what he could have did if he was on a different team or
Exactly.
this and that. We just going by what he did. We talking about you using Tracy McGrady. We saying he might not have won championships. We're not saying he wasn't great, bro.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
want,
And as
I want
you
to ask.
said,
I want to ask you a question
that
here.
Who even said
Let me
anything about
actually. This is to the
T-Mac?
entire panel, including you, one. But I want to get everyone's input. So, what if let us say whoever I'm talking to, let's say Tyson, if you had a top 10 list, right, and you were giving me reasons why you had your criteria, your top 10, you've been watching basketball for 30 years, whatever. I don't know how old you are, but let's say you're doing
22.
that, and then I say, you know what? No, I disagree with you. Let's say LeBron, right? Cool. I have LeBron as a GOAT. Let's say you do too. LeBron's the GOAT. No, I disagree with you. And I just had very cherry-picked examples of why I hate LeBron, bad games he had, which he's had plenty. No, you don't get it twisted. And I said, you know what? And I just went on and on, always talking about how bad a player he was for specific instances. That's why I kept me your GOAT. Then you cornered me and said, you know what? Who's your top 10? And do you use the same energy for any other player? And I said, no, just LeBron. Would you take anything I said seriously?
bingo.
Especially if I said I'm a basketball fan.
Bingo.
I agree.
Listen,
I
don't
agree
care.
with that.
Bingo.
I don't care about that. We
I
are
agree with that, boy,
there is a
because
speculation of
that's the
Jordan
same
having
thing.
fake stats.
Brother,
Also,
ask me a question, bro.
all right. He also has fake stats, right?
No, he doesn't. That's been
Why is
debunked.
that being? Why? But why
That's
is it
been
even a
debunked.
debate? Why is it a debate?
Why is it a debate? Because
Why are
somebody
people
supposedly
going to
said
the
they
film?
looked at
Listen, just like I
six
said,
film.
people are
And
going
you
to
asked me a
the
question,
film.
B-Lay? Why you ain't?
Credible sources are
All right,
going to
guys.
the film.
We about to wrap it up so everyone get their last take in. I know y'all got a lot to say, but we got to get out of here.
Let me get mine because I ain't really say a word. I think there's a middle ground, and I kind of agree with T Perfect to say that he has the stats to be in the top 10. I think why he wasn't really successful is like one trait I find very common amongst teams that win a lot is like great passing. So like I have a premium on assists, I have a premium on good passers. Like even Larry Bird, his team like completely like fell off the planet when he got injured. I forgot what year it was, but I think it was '93 or something like that. And I think what Akeem didn't have was his Pippen. He never had that guy to really run that offense, pass, be the maestro on the court. You know what I mean? That's why I have Magic high, I have LeBron high because they're maestros. They can score, and I think that's just what Akeem didn't have. He could have. I think winning two with the skills he really had is a great accomplishment. I think his blocks, I think his defense. But when you really look at it, blocks is great, but it's not like the best blockers were always the best. The guys that won championships. For all that Bill Russell did, he was also a great passer. So I think that's what's missing from the debate is the issue of passing. The Spurs were a great passing team. The Bulls created a good passing offense, and that's what was missing from Akeem's game. In my point, I know you could go to certain things and say 2 points in the fourth quarter, so on and so forth, but it's a team game. Passing is essential, and that's what probably is missing from Akeem's career. But like I also wanted to say, a lot of people are getting GOAT status from being on great organizations. You know what I
Fact.
mean? These teams won without that person that you have in the top 10. They won a lot of games. So think about that in your criteria. How essential is passing and how premium should it be for your top 10 list? I'll pass it on from there.
I'm
Good
Man,
take.
lost.
Good take.
I'm
In my
lost.
opinion.
Whoever wants to
But this is bad because when y'all started talking about Hakeem's roster in the '80s or when he was losing, none of y'all that's making the case for him could come up with any of the names of the players on the team. Y'all should know what the situation was with the teams before you even spoke on it. That's why you guys got to go back and look at this film or get the attainable information before you make these statements. Because it tells me that you're not really invested in anything but arguing about the people, arguing with the people that actually know more than you do or put it to use better than you do. That's why I said I don't have a top 10. I look at film and from what I know, I could go to stats and make it even simpler. Y'all are making these debates difficult even more so because y'all don't even go back to watch the film. Y'all don't go back to watch nothing. And y'all still, and every
Well,
time y'all come up here, it's everything off the numbers, something that you could go Google. How about y'all go on YouTube and watch some of these games that they got on there that y'all say y'all watched 30 years ago? And y'all trying to talk from, y'all try to bash me for watching shit from 30 years ago today. Y'all sound horrible when y'all be talking basketball. Because whatever y'all want to debate, most of it is available on the television for you to go back and watch if you're a real fan like I am. I'm going back and watch to see Steve Nash in the playoffs and when he got the Phoenix. I'm watching it. Y'all say because I'm watching it because y'all say, oh, Kobe always guarded the best player on the other team. Steve Nash was doing whatever he wanted to the Lakers. And Kobe wasn't guarding him. This is the shit that I be talking about when I say y'all don't watch basketball. Because the shit don't fit what's happening in the games. How hard is it for you out of? We see, yo. You know what? Let me go see what one boy talking about. Outside of 6-0. When I look at the film, it don't say 6-0. That's not the greatest player I've seen. That's by my eyes.
All right, guys. Do anybody else has anything before we go ahead and get off here?
Yeah, let me have it. Look. And I'm not trying to go. I'm trying to kind of let the panel all together, not just one boy. Look, when you put your he can watch 30. He can watch 30 games by the end of the weekend. The fact that he says I have an emotional disdain for 90s players, which he does. Jordan 90s players all together. Because again, like you said, Jordan's not even being brought up to discuss. You guys will bring up a what about Jordan all the time. Take your emotions out of it. I rooted against Jordan. I watched those games root against Jordan. I rooted against Kobe. I actually rooted for LeBron in 07, and I rooted against him the rest of his finals career. I don't. You can't take those games out of my mind. I don't I don't put one above the other because I don't like them or somebody. I've been arguing with Bron fans for 13 years. I argue with Kobe fans throughout the 2000s. And I argue with the fake Bulls fans who really were Michael Jordan fans. They didn't like the Bulls. They just liked Michael Jordan and the fact that they were winning in the 90s. I argue with all these people. The difference is, it's like, guess what? At the end of the day, winning matters. They didn't make too much excuses for Jordan losing because guess what? He didn't lose. When he lost early in his career, we all expected that. An 8 versus a 1 seed, a 7 seed versus a 2, we didn't expect him to win. Then he won as a 6 seed, 3, 5th seed, whatever. The fact of the matter is, take your emotions out of it. Try to be objective as possible. Otherwise, your goal list, and again, shout out to one boy for saying, I don't write a goal list. But the fact that you have to come up with emotions, say this, discredit a whole era, y'all discredit the 90s a lot. Again, these are the best basketball players at the time. All I can do is judge the player is playing against the best basketball players at the time. If there were better basketball players out there, like I said, I made the point that Brad Miller was a second string center in the 90s. He was an all-star in the 2000s. Is that to say 2000s automatically a weaker era? No. No, it's just a game change. And guess what? Brad Miller's skill set was probably more, utilized better in the 2000s than it was in the 90s. Same with
Or
Ben
maybe it
Ball.
got better. We'll move on.
I mean, no, but this is my point. The idea is you have to go back and denigrate errors, talk about Jordan at the time. Yo, here's the thing. Take the best of every player, put their
No.
resumes out there, and go from it. Otherwise, just wasting time back and forth trying to knock one guy because he did this, and when another guy, you can say another guy had this in his resume. It's stupid. And at the end of the day, that's it. Take your emotions out of it and just have a debate. That's
Hey
it.
man,
All right.
on a different note, man. Salute to y'all. A good show, good debate. Things got a little heated, whatever have you. That happens at debates sometimes. Salute Tperfect. Salute B Lee. I'll be disagreeing with you, man, but it's all in the name of having good debates in
Yeah,
basketball,
you guys
bro.
brought up good points. You guys have a lot of great info.
So yeah,
What I want, and I'm sure what B
don't
Lee
cut me
wants,
off,
I want
Tperfect.
you guys, all of you guys, to like call each other out and have debates here, so we can just sit back and judge. That's all I want to do. Like, get in our Discord.
Yeah.
Get in our Discord, call people out, and like give us topics. We will happily do that. Like, I don't want to debate anyone. I've had like 4 straight debates. I want you guys to get to smoke with each other. Like, that would be great.
Yeah, bet. All right, fellas, man. Salute to y'all, bro.
Have a good night, man. Thanks for coming on.
All right, see you guys.